right, so we ready to get started? Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 18th, 2015 meeting of the Merrimack Conservation Commission. Gage is running a few minutes late, but should be joining us soon. It is now 6:31 p.m. I have no other announcements. Anyone else have anything? All right, time for public comment. Anyone from the public wish to speak? I'm sure you're all here for other things, so, all right. So then we'll jump right into our first appointment. Lieutenant? All right, so, yeah, if you don't mind just signing in for me, that'd be great, yeah. Yeah.
No, thanks.
Get them turned on. Here we go. Good. So this is obviously not the first time you've been with us to talk about this activity.
Yeah.
And in fact, I believe you've had a chance to see our meeting and catch up on minutes and all that stuff.
I did.
So,
I did. Yeah.
good.
Thanks for sending that. So
Yeah. Good.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I
Get
figured
up
you.
to speed.
Yeah. Might as well have all the info, right?
Absolutely.
So I think we're at the point now where we'd like to get her done. Get started.
Okay.
So, right? Is that pretty much the consensus? So I guess it's all about what steps we need to do to get things going then. So
It really, whenever you want to start it, just be a matter of, I think typically our outside details, people call in through dispatch. But seeing that you and I have been communicating so much, it probably just, maybe we can start with emails. Let me know when you want to do these patrols. Specifically, I'm guessing you guys are going to want to do them on weekends.
well, why don't we just discuss that so that way
Yeah.
we can we can take away as many roadblocks as possible to get
Yeah.
started. So weekends is what we're thinking, right?
Weekend afternoons, yeah. Not AM, not really.
Yeah.
Yeah. PM weekends.
PM weekends. Okay.
That's what I think.
Everyone
Yeah.
else?
A couple of questions we came across, and you probably saw in the last meeting.
Yeah.
One of them being, is it going to be the same officer, or small group of officers, or is it whoever's on duty?
It's probably going to be a small group because there's a number of us, a small number of us. We're going to have some additional training that are OHRV trained. You have to go through a training course to get certified as a user. But I know that you kind of wanted to mix in mountain bike as well.
Yeah.
So we do have bike guys. So it kind of opens it up. So it really depends. It'd be probably, I'm guessing maybe 10 of us. As far as ATV guys and bike officers that would be able to do it. I'd like to, I know there was some concerns mentioned in the last meeting about some of these areas being fragile, I guess for lack of a better way of putting it,
Yeah.
because of the earth being loose or soft or what have you. I'd like to be able to walk around with somebody, maybe if somebody could
Yeah.
show us these areas, because I could in turn show the guys and make them aware of the spots that are the concerns. Because if there's a way we can actually monitor and patrol the area without having to drive through there, we can do that. But the other thing is, too, which we're all kind of on the same page with the PD, is obviously use due care when we're driving around out there. Stay away from the mud, stay away from the soft spots, because we do realize it's conservation land. So I think you're going to get more bang for your buck with the four-wheeler. I'd like to start with that first, if that's possible. If you notice maybe some areas that are getting rutted up by us, by all means, let me know. I can let the guys know. But I just think we're going to be able to cover a lot more ground in a shorter amount of time, be able to check locations probably more than once, probably 2 or 3 times for a 4-hour shift.
Right.
So, and I think when you're on a motorized, people are probably less inclined to take off on you. I think if I pedaled up on somebody and they're on a dirt bike or a four-wheeler, they might be more inclined to just take off. So from an enforcement perspective and be able to catch these people, might be better served on a four-wheeler. You have the element of surprise on a mountain bike, but I'd probably start with the four-wheeler and then do the mountain bike. We can mix that in. Really depends on, what you guys want.
Well, my concern is, I mean, you're limited in your patrol on a four-wheeler to the yellow trails, the four-wheeler trails. Like you said, but you could walk the other trails. If you did that, it would take you longer than if you had a mountain bike, because the distance isn't that long on the yellow trails, really. So if you're patrolling the blue trails, you can't do that on your ATV.
Okay, I thought the property was opened up for that. Is
Well,
that?
so the non-motorized trails, some of them, you're not going to be able to get your ATV through them.
No.
It's just not possible.
Okay.
I would say less than 50% of the trails
Okay.
are able to be accessed by an ATV.
Right. But those would be the main problem areas, though, wouldn't they?
Well,
Isn't that typically where if we're worried about motorized traffic, unauthorized use, I would say probably, and I just say this because I'm a rider, most people are going to stick to the trail system that allows them to ride. I mean, you're going to have some people that are going to kind of venture off into the woods.
That's the problem is when they're where they don't belong, on the blue trails or cutting their own trails.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think
With two-wheel dirt bikes, which they can get on, but you won't.
Yeah.
You may not be able to get on it with your four-wheeler because
Okay.
they're too large. But they can get on those with their two-wheel dirt bikes, and that's.
Okay.
I think that's one of the main concerns we have.
Okay. Then
yeah. Yeah,
maybe,
so,
maybe a mountain bike is the way to go. Like I said, I'm just trying to
yeah.
give you guys the best bang for your buck here.
Yeah,
And most of the details that we've had in the past, the fishing game details, unfortunately, we have to kind of divert our attention elsewhere because it's a town-wide detail. I'd go to Greater Woods, I'd ride there for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then I'd have to go somewhere else. So, yeah, that's the thing. It's just the being able to focus on that particular area.
Yeah, so what I think would be helpful then is for Matt, if you're willing, yourself and any other members, just to sit down with you and maybe your very core team and do a once over on the property, go over spots.
Yeah, no, I think that would be important
and
to
then,
do that.
And then you can figure out what the right strategy is at that time. Because
Okay.
I don't think the rest of the commission would argue if Matt and you were able to work out what the right strategy is. I don't think we don't have to come back through here in order to say yes, is
Okay.
really what I'm getting at, right? Would you all agree?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. This takes some of the bureaucracy out of this whole thing and just make 2 points of contact and, like I said, get it done, so.
Yeah, no,
And
that sounds like a plan.
I think once you see what we're talking about, on the ground,
Right.
you'll see like, okay, this piece definitely ATV, but these other pieces, it wouldn't work.
Right.
So we'll
Okay.
talk about hours allocated where and
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the goal here is to help you guys out, and so however we have to make it work, we'll make it work.
Yeah, okay. All right, so,
Nothing precluding us from taking the four-wheeler and the mountain bike out at the same time. We could, maybe we could try and work that as well.
right,
So
yeah.
that might be an option that we have. So
Yeah, you may choose that you go in one direction with one vehicle and then decide because of whatever you see that it's easier to move around the property somewhere else and grab the bike and go in,
yeah,
because you may hear things in the distance or whatever too.
right.
So, and we still have that issue with target shooting going on too.
So is that patrol going to be able to go off? It's Merrimack property, but private. Well, it's not. Are they going to be able to go there?
Well, you can at least witness what's going on,
Yeah.
so that way you have an idea when you see the guys with the 50 calibers out there.
I mean,
Okay.
that is a
That's
Class
just-
6 Merrimack Road
Yeah,
that they're firing from,
yeah,
so you have jurisdiction there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that you're talking about the piece at the very top of the hill there.
The Conservancy
The
property.
Conservancy. Yeah. No, that's. Last I knew, it was still posted. I know one of the signs got hit with a shotgun blast, which is not uncommon. But yeah, no, any of that posted property up there, we can.
Yeah.
It's just You know, to be honest with you, it's great that we're doing this because there's so many times, especially during the summer months, where we're running short-staffed. I mean, we're at minimum personnel. So we don't have the people available during a shift to get up and do some of these things.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about this is, again, you know, you can focus 4 hours on the property patrolling
Yeah.
without having to worry about getting distracted or sidetracked with a call or something. So
Right.
I think it'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
And like we, like we talked, it's all about educating the folks as well.
Yeah.
You run into someone, and if they're not clear as to where they can be or should be doing whatever they can do, we'll have the information for them, so, and you can pass that along. So,
Yeah.
so hopefully that helps too.
I think it will.
Yeah.
Do you feel we did a good enough job?
Yeah, I think so. I know that in the last meeting you talked about maybe doing a map for us, or they have more,
Yes.
maybe some more details about trails or some. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that would be helpful.
I think you and I could do. Yeah,
Exactly that one. Yeah.
you and I can do that because I have it in
Okay.
you know poster size,
Perfect.
and I can show you exactly what we're
Okay.
seeing.
Okay. Yeah, that would be helpful.
Is that the changed one?
No,
We have a small corrections to the map that are gonna be done. I'm expecting it probably later tonight.
Okay.
And we'll get them out to you.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. So we were thinking 4 hours a week. Is that?
I think 4 hours is good.
Yeah.
And I talked with the chief about it. Typically, our 4 hour, it's a 4 hour minimum
Mhm.
for a detail. But because of the situation that we have here, we're not going to do a 4 hour minimum. In other words, if for weather-related reasons or there's a mechanical issue or what have you,
Yeah.
and the guy's only out there for 2 hours, you're only going to get billed for the 2 hours.
Okay.
It's not going to be an automatic 4 hour thing.
Mhm.
So it'll be up to 4 hours, but whatever the guy works is what you'd be paying for,
Right. Okay.
basically. So,
Yeah, I guess we didn't discuss the mechanics of the whole billing part. I'm sure finance can deal with all that.
the chief he's
Yeah.
talked with Paul McCallie
Okay.
and figured that out, so
All right. All right. Yeah, I forgot about
that should be all
aspect.
set.
Okay. All right. What else? What am I leaving out? So, an activity sheet.
Yes,
So I got your one from Fish and Game.
yeah,
Did you happen to see I threw out a different version?
I did. I
Okay,
saw
I
it.
know it came out late. Did all of you get a chance to take a look at it? You know,
I like that.
I didn't. What?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
It's
it.
simpler.
Do you need another copy?
Do you have the copy?
Okay. Yeah, well, we already know what property it is. Well, I'm sorry, we already know what town it is, so I took out some of the kinds of
I saw it.
information that I didn't think was pertinent,
Yeah.
so. I left an area for comments or what the patrol was about.
Perfect, yeah.
You know, that could be one sentence, that could be 5 sentences, whatever fits,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
I thought that it would be good to get time on property as well as the time dedicated to the detail, just in, you know, because I know there's logistics involved, packing, moving in, moving out. I don't know if you want to,
yeah.
I was assuming you'd cover those hours, that time as well.
Yeah, and that's why I think the 4 hours is good, because, you know, between loading and unloading, and then, you know, the guys will come back, we do maintenance, you know, we'll clean it, spray it down, all that, and then
Yeah.
fill out this.
Yeah,
You're talking 45 minutes to an hour
yeah,
with all of that type of stuff. So at least this way you get a solid 3 hours of patrol out there, which I think will be good.
okay. Yeah, you know, and I'm sure you realize if it was 4 hours and 20 minutes or whatever, just because logistics or whatever, I don't think that's an issue here, so.
Yeah.
I think we were just trying to give a bounds to it, an idea of what we thought it might be, that's
Okay.
all, so.
Yeah, well, that's perfect. Yeah, no, the sheet looks really good.
Okay. The reason why the third line down says specific location is I kind of left the sheet kind of generic in case we decide to use this with Horse Hill at some point, or maybe one of the other properties. We
Yeah.
could just we could fill that information in, so.
Yeah, good. No, it's
So.
perfect.
And then the bottom comments line is just anything else, you know. So, does that make sense?
Looks good.
So what we hope to do is is collect some metrics out of this, you know, how many contacts you're getting and stuff like that too, or whatever, so.
Yeah.
That way we have an idea whether we think we're being effective or not, or whether maybe the, you know, the situations that we're concerned about, hopefully we see them diminish, you know, that sort of deal, so.
Mhm.
And then, anything else you think we might have missed?
I don't think so. As far as these activity sheets, is this something that you want us to email you? I mean, does that work?
Yeah, that can work. I can send you the
Fill it.
electronic copy.
Have the guys complete it and they can just
Yeah.
send it off?
Yeah, again, I'd like to try and keep one point of contact between us. And I keep looking at Matt, but you can say no.
No, I think it's appropriate. I'm
Okay.
out there more than 4 hours a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And you'd definitely be the guy that we'd want, I mean, you would know what's going on, when it's going on. That's really going to be important information for us, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely, you would definitely be the guy that we'd want to stay in contact with, so.
Okay.
That works out.
Right. Yeah, and that way, if you see things happening, you can do updates. So should we pick a time to get us back together again and talk about progress and how things are going?
Sure.
So sometime, you know, maybe the second meeting in August or something like that? Or is that too long of a time?
In July, maybe?
Well, we only have one meeting in July, and it's just about June, so,
Okay,
I think that
sounds good.
a good time frame.
okay.
So we'll have 3.5 months,
17?
Yeah, second, is that the
or
third?
2.5 months.
I'm sorry, that's the third Monday, 17th?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right.
And since there will be, like you said, like a core group of 10 of you, will you be able to check the names just to see? I'm just curious if there are repeat offenders.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need it obviously on the sheet. We're just gonna have totals, but you know, if there's caught same person from last week, or you
Yeah.
know, just something like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll keep track of that. So especially, you know, if whatever the situation deems paperwork service. You know, warning for trespass. We've been warning a lot of, that was all part of the educational thing, is warning people for trespass. In particular, the people that have been shooting up the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Any of those individuals you've had contact with, we've been issuing paperwork to keep track of repeat offenders.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah, no, we would definitely monitor all that.
All right. And for everyone's benefit, I did reach out to Matt Chevanel at the school district, and he is supportive of this idea. So you saw the.
I did, yeah. Thank you.
So the district's aware that we want to do this, and they're aware that we will have ATV patrols and other patrols on their property. So, yeah.
Okay. So I guess I'll just wait to hear from you when you want to start.
Yeah, so you have his email address, right? Because you have.
Yep.
So why don't, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So maybe I can meet up with you and figure out all that, the stuff with regard to the trails, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, whenever we could set a time now if you want.
Yeah? What time works for you? I work 3 to 11s now. I'm on afternoon shift, so, but I can meet with you during the day too. That's not an issue.
3 to 11 is great. How about, well, I'll email you and we'll set a
Okay.
date, but not further than a week out.
Okay. That sounds good.
When I get that map, when Steve send me that map, I'll just send it on to you, and you can,
Great.
we're gonna have to get,
Yeah, 'cause
we have to get
We'll need to
together.
print quite a few of those for you to have.
Yeah. stock.
I don't know if you're gonna put them on the machine or.
Probably have them with the machine, but
Sure.
also I'll pass them out to the guys.
Okay.
The ones that I know that are going to be working the detail, I'll get all this information out to them. I'm going to shoot them kind of an email that kind of covers everything too, with regard to riding out there and what the game plan is, and you know the chief wants the guys to can clearly understand what our mission is out there,
Yep.
and you know being responsible riding around and all that stuff. So
Right.
I'll shoot that out to the guys so they have that.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, so once you have the final map, we could probably get a few copies done downstairs, but I'd rather send it off to the printer and get a better quality map, so we can have it for the kiosks as well. So,
Do we have a printer, or you just want me to
Yeah.
find someone?
no, we have one.
Okay.
Sue has set it all up. We just
Okay.
have to give them either actually a PDF is great, so.
Yep.
So-
Okay.
So I would suggest sending it to Sue directly, and don't even put me in the middle of it, so.
Okay.
But I'll let her know that it's coming, okay? So we'll.
I'll
go
make
ahead.
sure when we meet,
Mhm.
I'll have them with me.
Okay.
So if we can get that today, tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone have anything else?
Just, I had a question as far as the start date. We had talked about last meeting, beginning this in June. So as soon as you and Matt have gotten together and you've got everything you need, he's okay to just go ahead and start, right?
Right.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. No one has objections to that, right? Okay, didn't think so. Okay. Good. All right, so I will email you the activity sheet so you have it electronically,
Okay.
all right?
All right.
That way you can fill it out, or you can, you can.
Yeah, I'll get it out to the guys so they have it. That way, whoever works it, they can fill it out and
Yep.
and send it. So,
Okay,
all right,
great.
great.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, just let me capture a few notes and we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. All right, so that takes us into our next category of statutory and advisory business, and the first thing up is the Harris Pond Dam project. So, like that, they brought their own stands and everything. Yeah. Yeah.
We never know. Some places have them, some don't, so it's better to.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could just fill that in so that way our minutes taker has everything for the record. We did get plan sets. I'm not sure we,
Okay, these are the same thing.
Yeah.
That's fine.
yeah. I think I got all the pages on it.
Yeah, nothing's changed since then.
Yeah.
Oh, my name is Mark McLeod, and this is Bob Carter. We're with the H.L. Turner Group, and we're working with Pennachuck Water on their
You can swing up a chair if you want.
on the renovations to and improvements to Harris Pond Dam, and we're here to present this to you in advance of submitting our DES wetlands application because Harris Pond is a prime wetland. We have to submit a standard dredge and fill, standard dredge and fill, and we just want to show you what they're proposing to do here at the dam and what the nature of the project is.
If you're not familiar with Harris Pond, are you all familiar with Harris Pond?
Yep.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
So the project, basically Harris Pond is currently equipped with a low-level outlet. The low-level outlet, that's on the second page, is,
It's in the. Go ahead.
you can't really see it here. You mind if I bring this forward?
No?
No.
If you look on your plans, it's in that gatehouse, kind of just right of center. There's a crosshatch penstock that's been plugged, and just to the left of that, there's a little dash line that represents their existing low-level outlet.
This is the low-level outlet. It's a timber gate over a 5-foot diameter penstock.
Yes.
These are the actuators, which you can look if you want to, but they're fairly antiquated. Right now, the fear is that if they were able to open the gate, given the age of the actuators, they wouldn't be able to close it. And Harris Pond is the primary water supply for the city of Nashua and the vast majority of the area around here. So if they can't keep the water in, they can't make water for the entire community. This is the gatehouse structure where this equipment is stored. The idea is to replace the existing gate upstream of the outlet. Well, let me back up. The idea is to, upstream of the spillway, construct a cofferdam, with the top of the cofferdam being at essentially the permanent concrete crest of the Harris Pond spillway. Dewater the area in between the cofferdam and the spillway so that they can work on replacing the low-level outlet gate. What they'll do is demolish the old gatehouse, remove the old actuators, construct a new intake structure, including a trash rack and slide gate equipment and some stop log bays. Once the new gate is in place, they'll then pull the old gate. What that'll effectively do is it provides a bit of a safety factor, because at no point, if there's ever a problem with the cofferdam, at no point will water be able to flow uncontrolled out of Harris Pond into Supply Pond. Okay. While they have the area dewatered, and again, I apologize, the pictures look bigger on the screen.
Well, I pulled some of the pictures from the application, so we have some of them as well.
Okay.
Right, in fact,
Oh, there you go.
so,
Yeah, there's the old actuators,
right,
and that's the gatehouse.
yeah.
On that picture that you're showing right there, on the bottom right-hand side, that's the outlet to the low-level penstock.
Mhm.
Okay. While they have the area dewatered, and it's basically just upstream of the stone masonry arch spillway, while they have it dewatered, they're going to take all the old masonry, granite block masonry joints and concrete work and repoint it. In some of the pictures you may have, if you look at the abutments, you can see there are voids and gaps in the stone masonry. They're basically going to repoint those, regrout them. Okay? At the same time, on the crest of the spillway are two 16-inch culverts with knife gates on them. That's not the permanent crest, that's not the permanent spillway, but what those two knife gates currently do is allow some control of the impoundment elevation so they can control the head pressure they have in producing water.
Mhm.
It's not a lot of control because those knife gates aren't easy to control. It's kind of more or less on-off. It's more or less like a ball valve. It's either
Yep.
open or closed. Up until about 4:30, they were going to put in what is described in here as a pneumatic crest gate. But because they want to do the project this year, the providers or vendors for pneumatic crest gates can't fill the order this year. So it's going to be a different, probably more conventional gate, but it will still, and when we know what it will be, we'll revise the application. But it's basically just greater crest control for operational control of the impoundment. Okay. During the construction process, the impoundment and the construction process is going to be between August and December. During construction, with the cofferdam constructed at the permanent concrete crest elevation, water impounded by the cofferdam is going to be about 3 feet below that elevation, which is consistent with seasonal fluctuations in Harris Pond as it is. Under normal conditions, if they weren't doing this work, that's consistent with normal fluctuation. Okay? When the work is done, the gate's installed, they'll remove the cofferdam, and things will go back to normal. The only reason why we have, actually, I don't even think we do have permanent impacts on this?
No, we
No.
do not.
Okay, so they are all temporary impacts, and it's all just for access. From the top of the bank on the dam down to the area to be dewatered, and then the area dewatered itself counts as an impact because it's a staging area. But they're all temporary.
There's no dredging or filling or anything. It's really just, as what that plan is indicating is just the access in. There's existing access maintenance roads into the dam from the treatment plant that the contractors will be able to follow, and they'll be, being able to get the equipment they need to down into here to do that. The gate construction and the dam repair, those impacts along that embankment, that's what we're talking about.
So is that top line where the cofferdam's gonna be?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yes, this will be the dewatered area in between here. Because there are some.
It's a big
these-
space.
These abutments stick
Yeah.
out pretty far
Yeah.
down into the pond and angle back down, so.
What is the temporary dam made of?
It's gonna be a structural steel dam because of the amount of water that's going to be impounding. It's not gonna be a porta dam or a set of sandbags. It's gonna be a structural steel coffer dam.
Sheet piling.
Are they gonna be pounding it into the base, or are they just gonna sit on the bottom?
It depends on what they ultimately do. You can't put a sheet pile coffer dam when you have ledge close to the,
Right.
so it may end up being something, a hybrid of sorts. Yeah, the area of impact is it 99,540 square feet. That does include, that total is not the dewatered area. That also includes impacts between the top of the dam and the
Right.
normal high water mark, so.
So you believe we've got enough access to maneuver your vehicles in and around using pretty much the existing service road? Yeah.
They won't need to clear anything, create additional access.
You guys gonna sponsor some engineering field trips? I wanna see this.
Yeah. That would be
I'm dying to see
interesting.
this.
Would be interesting.
Do you have the phone numbers of the guys that are downstream putting in the bridge, just in case?
Oh,
No, that's
On
not
Manchester
downstream.
Street? No, who's doing that?
that's taking
No,
long.
what you're thinking, one bridge washes the other? No,
Uh.
they're not that connected.
That's
No,
been
it's-
going on
it's-
for a long time.
In terms of water quality,
Yeah.
again, this was pretty well thought out in terms of construction sequencing, which is why we're installing the new gate first, then removing the old one. Any inflows to the pond will be handled via siphon tubes that can be suspended on the upstream end. There's enough of a slope to supply pond where you can have a siphon run. And right now, based on the 100-year inflow design event, the impoundment will hold or increase by 2 feet during the 100-year event, which will be 1 foot below our proposed top coffer dam, and we'll use a series, probably 2 to 3 6-inch siphons to maintain and lower that water level as needed.
Yeah, you've got another dam structure further up water
There's
as
several.
well.
There's Bowers Pond is upstream of that.
Yeah,
The new Manchester Street Bridge is up in between Harris Pond and Bowers.
yeah, so. Yes,
This might be a dumb question. The low-level outlet gate has clearly been there for a while. So I'm just wondering about timing. I'm not saying that it doesn't need to be replaced, but why now? What is it about now that this project's moving forward where it hadn't, say, 10 years ago?
I believe it's a matter of priorities. As you know, Pennachuck Water Works maintains several water supply functions, and they've got several impoundments that they need to maintain. And Dam Bureau pushes things that need to be done, but if you place or put out basically an agenda, a schedule of when you're going to address them, then they'll back off. And this one was on the agenda to be done, and this is when it's scheduled to be done.
So it's part of a long-term plan? Thank you.
There was work done on Supply Pond, which was a greater priority. That was done 2 years ago.
Approximately,
Yeah.
that sounds about right.
Yeah, so again, it's all part of a scheduled.
So if everything doesn't fall into place before August, will you be waiting till next August?
The plan is no. With the work to be done, August to December is a generous time frame.
Oh, okay. You wouldn't need that one. Okay. As long as it's done by January
Right.
for the
For
Eagles.
the Eagles, yes.
Okay.
But if there is a hiccup, then yes, it will be postponed.
You'd have to postpone it. Okay. Thank you.
yeah, I had noticed in the paperwork, it talked about a pneumatic, and then it talked about electric.
The electric actuators are actually for the gate, the
Low-level gate.
the low-level gate, not for the crest gate.
Gotcha, okay, all right. Does this come across the easement area for the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests? I think they have some land in there.
I didn't see anything when I looked
Okay,
on any of the GIS that I had.
all right,
Nothing in the abutter notifications showed up.
okay. Yeah, because I know that Penachuk gave them an easement across a bunch of their property. I didn't know if this was in the area. It didn't seem like it was. I think they're more along the brook as opposed to this far, but, so. Right, so you gave us a preliminary draft of the permit. You've explained the project. When do you think you'll be doing the final permit?
I think more or less, once we incorporate any recommendations or requirements from both the town of Merrimack and the city of Nashua into the final plans,
Mm-hmm.
and if that includes, obviously, we know that it's not gonna be pneumatic, but we don't know what it's gonna be yet, so we'll probably put some caveat in as to what the crest control gate would be. But my assumption would be that in terms of conservation commissions, you probably wouldn't be so concerned about what the actual mechanism is, but more about the water quality and bringing the impoundment back to normal conditions.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. The only other thing we would be concerned about is what, if it's pneumatic, what sort of precautions are in place to ensure there's no leaks of the equipment that could contaminate the water and do that sort of stuff, so.
That was why the initial design was for pneumatic, because there is no oil.
Yeah.
Pneumatic crest gates are basically, if you can, a giant bicycle inner tube.
Yeah, okay.
And it's all, the only fluid in it is for the compressor, which is housed inside the gatehouse, and it's just a little lubricating oil for the compressor. That would be it. What they decide to do now, there may be some changes, but again, I think what they're going to do is probably go to a conventional mechanically actuated gate rather than a hydraulic
Mhm.
gate.
Yeah, okay. So this is our opportunity to put together comments that we would want to forward to DES, because I don't think we'll take this project up again. Any comments, any thoughts?
It looked pretty conclusive.
Right.
Certainly looks like the work needs to be done. Understatement.
You mean there's some museum pieces in there?
Yeah.
Like, I wanna see those things. I love that stuff.
How tall is the wheel, the
Jeez.
The
low
gear,
level?
that's, well, this is a 5-foot diameter opening for the gate, though the gear on it is probably 4.5, 5 feet. It's pretty impressive that there are some that are still being used, but most of them end up being conversation pieces on the side of the road.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Yeah.
Significant amount of rust on those gears.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, I like the way you broke the whole thing out. You tabbed out the whole permit. That made things real easy for me when putting things together, so that was nice.
Done this
So-
before,
So,
The other thing we did, and maybe you can educate me on the process, when we met with DES, both the Shoreland and the Dam Bureau and Wetlands, their recommendation was, when it comes to the actual permit that we submit, have one signature page for both communities. So you'll notice on the signature page of the application you have, I've added a space for the town of Merrimack and the city of Nashua.
so the signature is only used when you're doing an expedited review,
Okay, all right.
okay? Besides that, all you do is you drop it off with the clerk,
Yep.
and we technically have 14 days to make any comments.
Okay,
Or we could ask for an extension
okay.
by RSA, but typically we don't have to sign unless it's an expedited permit, so.
Even with
What I
that,
can do is I can draft a letter to Frank, to
Okay.
DES, and say that we've reviewed the project during this meeting. Our minutes are available here if you're interested, and
Oh, great.
these are our comments, and that way he's assured that we've actually had a chance to look at it.
that'd be much appreciated.
helpful.
Yeah, I mean, so.
Just one more question, curiosity type question. Why is it called a trash rack?
Because that's what it collects. Depending on what you're doing, trash racks have different spacing. If you're going to be having a constant flow like you would into a hydro turbine, you have to have, 1-inch spacing on the bar rack to prevent fish entrainment, and it has to not have a velocity of greater than 2.5 feet per second, 2.5 feet in front of the trash rack. In this case, it's more just for a debris rack.
Okay.
And so it'll be spaced such that it's gonna trap logs, twigs, branches. It's not gonna trap needles, pine needles and leaves, but it's more less just debris.
Okay, so it's less of a danger to wildlife
Yes.
being wider space. Okay.
And if wildlife does go through it, all they're gonna do is find themselves in supply pond. It's not like a hydro project where they're gonna find themselves in the impeller of a turbine.
Gotcha. Okay, great, thanks.
It's more just so that stuff doesn't clog up the penstock itself. It collects it in a spot where Penachuk can get to it and maintain it, get
Yes.
it out of there.
So there is maintenance in
Yes.
there.
Yeah, they
Oh, yeah,
clear it.
yeah.
Great, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so when it comes to DS, do you have any comments you want me to share, or do you want to just I let them know that we reviewed the project and we had no further comments or concerns?
That's good for me.
Looks good.
All right, so I'll draft a letter. If I have your email address, I can ensure you get a copy of it directly.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Actually, I'll leave my little
Yeah.
business card.
That'd be great, yeah.
I came shorthand, but I'm gonna lose, I don't know if anybody else wants me.
No, that works.
Thank you
Right.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Tom.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me just get a few notes down and then we can continue. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next item on the agenda. That's Old Blood Properties, talking about the Chestnut Hill project. At this point, I am going to recuse myself from this part of the meeting and allow Matt to take over this part of the meeting. I will keep notes in the back, so. Oh, color map.
I know, yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Okay,
Hold it.
thanks.
Thanks.
Nice.
Hold on, I was reading that, it's like, I wanna go look at this thing so bad.
Hello, Matt.
Hello. Thank you.
You all set?
Signing in.
I am signing in, yes.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Ken Clinton with Meridian Land Services, here representing Old Blood Properties relative to their subdivision application that's before the planning board in a final hearing. For most of you, you'll recall I've been here, I believe, 3 times over the last year or so as this project has evolved, and I believe this is likely the last time we'll have a need for this particular project. And as I understand it, there's 2 parts. There's any final comments relative to the subdivision itself, and then there's also any comments that you may have or questions I can answer on the wetlands permit. So I'll take the former first. And recognizing that you've received probably an awful lot of information, our plan set is 27 some odd pages long. Our wetlands permit is quite comprehensive and has an awful lot of information, some of which is black and white. So for the sake of clarification and ease, I just simply handed out these color plots, which come from our wetlands permit. It's a compilation of information, and it goes to open space, easement areas, and some of the wetland crossing information. So everything's on one small plot and hopefully easily to understand. Relative to the subdivision, since the last time we've met, which was last November, the overall approach, the number of lots, the size and configuration of the lots in the open space have not changed. So that's fairly easy. The result of that last meeting was a letter that was penned by Mr. Tenhave relative to the decisions primarily centered around the board's understanding that it would be acceptable to receive a conservation easement on 2 of our open space parcels, and that was pretty important from our standpoint to satisfy the DES mitigation requirements, as we're impacting greater than 10,000 square feet. So relative to the subdivision, and specifically the open space that in principle was acceptable, and I believe there was 2 conditions, which we do have in our wetlands permit. The 2 conditions were that the language, I think, was agreeable to the Conservation Commission, and then Town Council subsequently approves it. So there was 2 conditions on that. On my plot, just as a brief summary, the overall gross area of the subdivision is 193 acres. The open space, we have 4 open space parcels, which total 122.6 acres, which is 63% of the gross, where 50 is required. Specifically, as we talked about last November, the 2 parcels that the Conservation Commission would accept an easement for are known as lots 5B, Lot 2, 5B, Lot 5. Those 2 conservation easements are the larger of the 4, and they total 101.5 acres combined. The other 2 open space parcels, one is in the middle of the subdivision loop, known as 5B, Lot 7, at 17.1 acres. And then there's a small remainder open space lot to the east of the project, 5B, Lot 8, which is only 4 acres, and that's bounded almost exclusively by roads and right-of-ways. Those 2 other lots that will not become conservation easement will be retained as open space lots with all the protections of the open space covenants and restrictions, just not that added and extra level of oversight and enforcement that the Conservation Commission can provide. And once again, that's specifically to address the DES permit requirements. As I said, the overall subdivision itself, configuration, location, layout has not changed. We've continued to work through some peer review comments from CLD, as along with some of the DPW and wastewater comments and several miscellaneous staff department comments. And we hopefully will ask for conditional approval at our next meeting on June 2nd. And we should have everything lined up to make that happen, although I can't guarantee. That's my brief summary as far as the subdivision itself. Since we've had several meetings, I didn't want to get into too much detail since nothing's changed. Are there any specific questions that you may have as committee members?
I have one. It looks like the 81.6 acre, that's the amount of acreage that we discussed in previous meetings. However, the 19.9, at one point in time it was in the ballpark of 23.4, or greater than 23, we'll say it that way.
That perhaps might have been the case early on. I think that in November we had the same configuration. I don't recall going through any lot line revisions in that era of our plan. Suffice to say, this is the final application. Anything prior was in progress in preliminary or design review stages. Okay. So this is the final configuration, and our plan revision is dated 5/11/15 for all those values.
Yeah, the reason why I ask is, you know, we have seen it a couple times.
Yeah.
And you said that the lots hadn't changed, so I was just, you know, in my brain I was trying to find out where 3 acres went.
I don't recall the last plans that we discussed that value may have come from, but I can assure you that this is the final application,
Okay.
hearing plans, and if we're talking about 3 plus or minus acres when the conservation easement area is over 100, I think that's pretty nominal difference.
So the common space in the middle, is that going to be left forested for the most part?
Yeah,
or-
there's no plans for any management, or it would be passive. Quite frankly, it would probably have the same type of language from covenants and restrictions that the remainder easement would also have to keep its consistency. However, it just wouldn't have that extra level
Right.
of oversight. And quite frankly, if you do recall, it's interesting, the tie-in with the lieutenant here, a couple of speakers before, I didn't realize that there was going to be that level of monitoring happening out at Crater Woods. The Merrimack Conservation Commission easement that's on the school property, we would look
Right.
to mimic that same language. So again, the consistency would come from the existing conservation areas through the open space on this parcel. And that's part of our wetlands permit that we submitted to DES as well.
Hi, I haven't sat through all of these meetings prior to, but I
Yes.
have watched a lot of the meetings regarding this particular project
Mhm.
on TV. So, but the piece of land that's in the center of all the homes, who's going to own that?
It could be one of two options, and we'll speak to that at the June 2nd planning board meeting.
Okay.
It could be conveyed in fee to the town, if that's what the town would like, or the planning board chooses to, but it also could be owned in common by the landowners, the homeowners.
Okay.
So
And that's something that's determined at the planning board level?
there's no specific requirement in the zoning ordinance that allows for an open space development, so it's up to the applicant. However, the planning board could have further input into that.
Okay. All right. So we should know that on June 2nd?
I would think that would be reached as part of, if there was a conditional approval issue, that would be part of the conditional approval.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything on the development piece before Ken moves to the wetlands permitting piece?
I do not.
Okay.
You said we've been over this a few times, so.
Relative to the wetlands permit, this has been quite a long time in coming too, but we really needed to wait for the peer review comments in particular, because they can be fairly cumbersome to go through and make sure that the town as an entity is satisfied with any responses that we would have prior to finalizing the permit and submitting it. So we've recently revised our plan according to the various comments and input that we received. And just last Friday, the permit was brought up to the state after being submitted to the clerk's office. So this is actually in the hands of DES currently. As I said, it's a fairly large and thick package, but I'll call your attention to some key points of it. There's both on-site subdivision improvements as well as some adjacent off-site improvements to town roads. Old Blood Road itself has several culverts that will be replaced. Two of the culverts actually have some wetland impacts associated with them. One culvert's only 20 square feet of impact. I sort of chuckled when our designers told me there was a 20 square foot impact, and I said, why can't we just avoid it altogether? But lo and behold, that 20 square foot impact is a reduction and is minimized to the degree possible.
Is this sheet 12 of 27?
It's 2 of 7. It's identified as sheet Y1 in your set. It's actually part of the wetlands permit set, Matt, and not necessarily the
No.
subdivision set. And I'm not sure how much copies you may have received on the wetlands permit itself.
Yeah, we didn't receive any. That's why I'm looking at the.
All right, yeah, we can get separate
I can
plans.
direct you to the appropriate sheets in the plan set then.
My guess is it is 12 of 27.
No,
Yes, it is.
no.
It is sheet 12, 7. And the crossing,
Real quick, are all the sheets that are in here also in here? Also in here?
primarily, yes. They have different information because of the different purpose.
Okay.
But generally, yes, that is. So I can direct your attention to sheet 12 of 27, identified as sheet P-1. And there's a culvert being replaced. We call it culvert C2. There's an existing 12-inch CMP, and we're merely replacing that. However, to do so, there is a small wetlands impact that needs to be done at that location. 20 square feet is pretty much as minimal as you can get.
Is that a temporary or permanent impact? This could be the permanent impact to replace that.
That technically is considered a permanent impact.
Is that just because of the size of the pipe, or is it?
We're also being required to widen, not just
Right.
replace culverts, but we're also widening the travel surface on that section of Old Blood Road per the DPW requirements. And so some of that, at that culvert location, is a little bit of it.
It's just going to be a little bit longer. Okay.
It's not just specific at the culvert, it's in the vicinity either side of it. And the same is true for the next culvert, which is on the very next sheet, sheet 13 of 27. It's identified as culvert C4. That as well is an existing 12-inch culvert, and more so due to the widening of the gravel surface and less to do with the culvert itself. There is impact at that location as well, 770 square feet permanent.
Now, the water flow, now, looking at the sheet, north would be on the very left of your sheet, am I correct?
Well, there's a north arrow on our sheets.
Ah,
So on the upper left corner, you'll see the north arrow.
so the
So
flow.
the flow would be from south
south.
to the north.
To north.
Correct.
Yeah. And
So the flow is headed towards the 81 acre.
In this particular case, on C-4, the flow is heading towards the house on lot 90-3 as it currently is. We're not changing the flow directions, or we're not affecting anything with the volume.
Sure.
We're merely replacing the culvert in order to upgrade the road surface.
It's just as to know.
Yeah.
Is the flow headed towards that parcel?
No.
It's not. It's headed away from the parcel.
Correct.
Okay.
If you will, it actually bypasses it. It runs almost south to north,
yeah.
parallel to, but east of the project.
Okay.
So it runs down to the Merry Meeting area
Effectively, it would end up
in that pond.
heading towards Merry Meeting, yes. There is a large body of wetland in between here and Merry Meeting that may divert it, and I don't know if that flow ends up at Merry Meeting, but it heads in that direction for sure.
Yeah. Well, either way, if it goes there, it's ending up behind Mitchell and into Mitchell Woods. That's the only sheet flow right over there.
And those are the two impacts on the south end of Old Blood Road. The third off-site wetland impact is shown on sheet 20 of 27. P9 is the sheet identifier. And this is an interesting scenario where it's at the intersection with the middle school, which was the subject of a long, protracted discussion between the planning board and the school district. We finally reached a resolution of the alignment, and as you see north, as you look at the sheet, north is to the right side of the page. The school is effectively where the north arrow is, so you have a little bit of better sense of the relationship. There are some wetlands that drain parallel to the middle school driveway from west to east, and they get intercepted by Old Blood Road, which is a Class 6 road in this section. The flow used to cross Old Blood Road, apparently without benefit of a culvert. It just would flow down, rise in height enough to then cross over. And Old Blood Road's an ancient road and hasn't been in use by the public for quite some time. It would simply overflow that old section of road and then carry on into a lot on the corner of the Merry Meeting subdivision. At some period of time, and I don't know how long ago, the flow pattern got changed. Something effectively stopped up the flow across the road, and the flow then went down the road and ponded up right in the old gravel surface of Old Blood Road itself, and it became a long standing seasonal pond, if you will. It ponded seasonally due to a limitation of an outlet. So if you were at the cul-de-sac, at the Madeline Bennett cul-de-sac, looking at the school, and you looked down at some of the signs, Classics Road, I think there's something about an ATV, prevention, and you would possibly see some standing water in the spring. That's this section. It is a town road. As a town road, and we are looking to make the secondary connection to the north, we are going to correct that flow and then improve the town road to a passable Class 5 town road. To do so, we have a fill situation here of 7,120 square feet. As I said, currently there is no culvert there, and in order to take in all of the design considerations from DPW standards, the culvert is actually set out of the wetlands impact to the north, closer to our intersection with the school, and it's a bypass culvert. So any flow that does come down from the hill on the east will bump into the road again and travel in a swale outside of the wetlands to a culvert and then bypass. And that's necessary in part because the existing cul-de-sac of Madeline Bennett, the pavement is at such an elevation that the standards for separation of the finished pavement over culvert pipe is too shallow at the location of the wetlands, and so we had to have it offset so it can meet the cover requirements. It was not needed to be into the wetlands, especially as the wetlands have been, their flow has been altered over time. This will also help a couple of the residents at the corner of Mara meeting as well, because a couple of them had said that their yards are fairly wet in certain periods in the spring, and this will actually help alleviate that and be a benefit to them. Are there any questions on that particular crossing?
Could you show us where the water is ponding and where the water is going to be diverted to?
Since this is the color one, waters would flow, again, here's the school. Waters would flow from west to east, get stuck at the Old Blood Road, and they would pond in that area, and then somebody actually used a machine, backhoe, if you will, to dig out a small channel to help release that water from that section of the Old Blood Road, the right-of-way. And so it then would enter into the Madeline Bennett drainage system. There's a culvert underneath Madeline Bennett, and then it would then be outlet through the other town parcels to the east of that.
Yeah, we met that gentleman at the site walk.
Yeah, correct.
So where is it going to go now?
Same place.
Okay.
It's not being redirected in a different location once it gets past Old Blood Road.
It'll be engineered now.
Now
to
it'll
go.
be engineered.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Great, thank you.
Is that, we're looking here on all the blue, is that just ponding areas that were?
The blue sea in this particular case, that's drainage basins, new drainage basins to
New.
handle the stormwater runoff,
Okay.
specific to the subdivision,
Right.
not the existing wetlands on site, which are green.
So it's not really a wetlands question, but where the road now enters the school driveway, that's right at the culvert, at the cul-de-sac?
As the design veers off, here's the cul-de-sac here. As the design veers off, the first pond will be on the right, it's just past the wetlands, and then there's a small pond
Yeah,
on the left.
no, I'm back on the is this entering right at the cul-de-sac? Is
Correct.
that,
Yes.
so is the cul-de-sac going away?
Yes.
So is that whole, oh. Okay.
The wetland crossing areas, is that for wildlife? The
wetland crossing areas?
Yeah,
Or is that what's going to be filled in?
or is it gonna be?
Is that what's filled in?
I'm not sure what you mean by the wildlife.
You got wetland crossing areas specified on here?
Yes. Those are there's three, aside from the two minor culverts to the south on Old Blood Road, there are three
Permitted.
more, well, they're all permitted.
Yeah.
Any crossing is permitted. However, these are more significant to draw your attention to and discuss as compared to the other ones being 20 square feet and 700 and some odd square feet. So I'm not sure.
Okay, so it's just where the water is going to be going under the road.
Where we have to cross wetlands in the road complex, either internally, which there's only 2 internal crossings, and then there's 3 external or off-site crossings, which are improvements to existing town right-of-ways.
Yeah, it is.
Are there any further questions on that, what we call Wetland Crossing 3, which is at the Madeline Bennett intersection with the school?
So the bypass culvert is gonna be big enough for critters?
Yes.
Cause,
As a function of our wetlands permit, when the DES gets it and
Yeah.
they review it, we actually also provide a copy to New Hampshire Fish and Game.
okay.
And in particular, the woman who reviews it up there is Kim Tuttle.
Oh, okay.
So she gets a copy, and her focus is not exclusively or primarily, but really addresses any threatened or endangered species. We're not too far from areas that have been known to have Blanding's turtles,
Mhm.
and then somewhat close to a location that has spotted turtle, I believe.
Yep.
So when she reviews these plans, if she feels that a culvert should be upsized to give a little bit more opportunity, she'll have those comments back. Those comments are advisory. They'll go to the DES Wetlands Bureau. We'll get a copy of that, and then there'll be a discussion that ensues afterwards.
Cause there's a big snake that lives right there.
Oh, really?
Oh, he's huge.
Oh.
Yeah, he's easily the size of my arm, man. He's fat.
wow.
Yeah. Haven't seen him this year yet.
The next crossing I can talk about is Wetland Crossing number 2. That's internal of the subdivision. If you're looking at my plot, it's in this location here. That can be found in the plan set on sheet P6, which is sheet 17 of 27. I'm sorry, that is incorrect. It's actually 18 of 27, P-7. This particular location, given the topographic conditions and the nature of the wetlands and the vicinity of those wetlands to some habitat, some extremely valuable wetlands habitat and adjacent vernal pool, this one actually has a 4-foot by 5-foot box culvert proposed, and that would be buried or inset into the ground 2 feet, so that when we're speaking about environmentally friendly for turtles in particular, this one, given its location, is already well-sized to accommodate that, with the nature of burying, so that there's natural terrain, if you will, through there. It was already pre-sized, oversized from a drainage calculation standpoint. That crossing in particular is 2,865 square feet.
It doesn't look like there's gonna be a house on that area either.
No, the way, when we talked about the locations with the planning board and the configuration of the open space in the middle, the planning board expressed that they did not want the open space in the middle to be quote-unquote landlocked, if you will. They wanted some corridors, some wildlife corridors, and so we've accommodated that with several breaks in that loop. And so, given the combination of the topography, the wetlands, the drainage needs, and the desire from the planning board, this location worked out to be a natural wildlife corridor. So, no, there are no houses immediately adjacent to this crossing. So it could connect the open space lot 5B2 and 5B7.
So, just one question on that page, P7. You've got the 5B/7 open space,
Mm-hmm.
and then within that you have the
Detention basin?
detention basin, and that's got the dashed line around it. But then you have 46 and 47 on either side.
Sure.
So was that at one time a lot, and then you decided to take that lot and just use the entire lot for, is that maybe how it got lined like that?
No, not necessarily. In the bigger picture, the density of the subdivision was calculated by our previous consultant. The number of lots was set, and when you take a look at the lay of the land, if you will, and seeking to protect open space and have lots placed in suitable building areas without causing too much disturbance with the topography and the road grading and the drainage considerations, I don't recall that we had an extra lot in there. But we don't technically have an extra lot to put in.
Okay.
So as soon as we discussed some of the open space configuration with the planning board, and we talked about wildlife corridors, that was identified as a logical corridor.
Okay, so the 5B7, that detention basin is actually part of that square footage.
It's an easement within that open space, yes.
Understood. Okay, great. Any more
Additional
questions,
questions on two?
On two?
No.
Sorry.
Mhm.
The last crossing is what we call wetland crossing number 1, and it's at the entrance to the subdivision from the existing old Blood Road heading from the south. This location is at the same crossing location as the old Class 6 road that had been discontinued on site. There is, much like Old Blood Road, a town road which had some stone walls on either side, an old gravel road bed, and at its low point, currently there is no culvert. I can't tell if there historically had ever been one, or if it had been a stone box culvert at one point in time. You can't tell. There is some remains of an old pipe that's discarded into the side, but you can't tell if that was brought to the site and someone thought they might try to use it and put it in, or if it was actually in the ground and someone pulled it out and just discarded it not too far away. It's almost irrelevant at this point because it's just not in the ground and it hasn't been functioning in some time. This can be found at sheet P3, sheet 14 of 27. And you can see the configuration of the old road and the stone walls on either side where my pen is, as it crisscrosses at this location. So this was an existing crossing already. It's interesting, the wetland to the south of this existing crossing is identified as a vernal pool that has some level of species in it. It did not a couple years ago. It did last year, so it has been inconsistent. This location for the crossing is one that the previous consultant had determined through their previous work with either the planning board, and I don't know that they've ever come before the Conservation Commission. It wasn't my sense that they had, but this location, due to its previous crossing and previous work from the prior consultant, was effectively set in stone as we received this project. We've moved forward, and we had a fairly lengthy discussion, pre-application meeting with Frank Richardson at DES on this. Talked about the impacts of that adjacent vernal pool, which, once again, has been sporadic in the history of reviewing it. And ultimately, given the overall protection of the open space, the amount of acreage on site, and the attempts and efforts to minimize impacts, DES was satisfied that that was a reasonable wetland impact to make. Currently, because of the nature of the topography here, from an engineering standpoint, I understand it only needs one pipe at 24 inches to convey the water through and across this wetland crossing. However, we put 2 pipes in, so they're side by side, 2 24-inch pipes, which again helps with the abilities for turtles in particular, any type of wildlife that may need to pass. Is that an area that could be requested to be upgraded from DES through Kim Tuttle from Fish and Game? Yeah, it might be. I wouldn't be surprised one bit.
Is there some reason you don't want to go to square box in that?
Well, we, at this point, always balance the engineering need with the town's desire to maintain, the town being DPW, who ultimately has the jurisdiction to have to maintain this, and the environmental need as well. And so where the engineering calculation might suggest that 24 inches, we've got double that.
Right. I'm just thinking of more of a passage features, the round bottoms versus the flat bottom.
In this particular case, the square footage on this crossing is 7,715 square feet. And with this particular crossing and the desire from DPW to have some buffer from the exterior of the right-of-way or the exterior of the easement rights, they wanted 5 feet of maintenance, which is going to require us to have a retaining wall that's in the vicinity of 6 feet high at this location. So it'll be a fairly substantial crossing, and that's just the result of the design requirements that the town has put upon us.
And how far from the roadway is the retaining wall going to be?
The request was 5 feet from DPW. 5 feet from the edge of the right-of-way limits
Edge of the pavement?
to, no. Oh, you went in that scenario. Well, it also depends on sidewalks and grass strips between the sidewalks. So if the pavement's 24 foot wide and we might have 6 to 8 feet on either side, then it could be 36 or more feet of retaining wall box, if you will.
Curb on top of it? Curb on top of the retaining wall?
There will be a curb, yes.
Okay.
It has to be.
I'm just
Yeah.
thinking plowing and what's going to end up over the wall into the...
Yeah, we had initially asked for a waiver to eliminate the retaining walls, but that was not supported by the town.
Those pipes going to be buried? Or are they going to be surface?
At this point, the surface.
I don't think we really have a lot of flow through there. Trying to just have to look at it now from what it's going to be.
Yeah, what in this scenario is not terribly different from the right-of-way near the Madeline Bennett cul-de-sac, where there's an existing road bed,
Right.
and there would be some seasonal ponding in the vernal pool area. Once that level rose enough, it would flow, but not in a single stream, not in a rivulet that would then concentrate and channel in one location, but almost like a level spreader that it would then come over and sheet flow off the back.
Right. Yeah, I just want to minimize, in 15 years, drop on either side where you're gonna strand something that can't get up to the pipe to cross.
It says the pipes are at ground level or wetland level.
Right.
Any traders would
it
have
should
to pass through that once again, because as soon as it's a retaining wall that's even 2 feet high, turtle's not going to scale
Right.
up a vertical face.
Will the rock wall be removed in that area where the pipe's going in? Because it looks like the pipe
Yes.
almost
Oh, yeah.
goes to
Yeah.
the
Well,
rock wall.
it would the invert in and out would be protruding from the face of the retaining wall.
Okay, so it's going to go well into the existing or the old roadway
The right of way, at least, yes.
right away. It's going to be a big change in that area.
It needs it though. That's soaking wet right there.
Mm.
So overall, my color handout identifies that there's a cumulative wetland impact of 18,490 square feet, 3 of which are off-site, 2 are on. And as I look at the overall layout of the subdivision and the protection of the open space, I think that's a very reasonable number, given the amount of lineal footage of road and the number of lots in here. And I think we've made every effort to minimize the impact in locations. And it was, as I said, supported by our pre-application meeting at DES, and this is the result of over a year's worth of planning and discussions, both with the Conservation Commission and a variety of town departments and staff, and certainly the planning board. So, as Mr. Tenave suggested earlier, this is a standard application, and so no specific sign-off is required by you. But if you have any comments you'd like to share with me, I'd be happy to consider them as we get further comments and input from DES.
One sheet that we typically get, and I don't think we got through the 3 previous meetings, was a landscaping sheet.
For the residential lots,
Yeah.
we've marked that as something to discuss with the planning board on the 2nd, or with the staff prior to that. There is a reference in your ordinance relative to landscaping of the individual lots, but not necessarily for crossing locations.
So it's something you're gonna discuss with the planning board?
The landscaping aspect from the zoning ordinance, yes.
Typically, you've heard what we have to say before about fertilizing. We'd love to see that in your recommendation to the homeowners via deed, via.
I've brought this up in the last couple of applications with the board because it has been a reoccurring theme from the Conservation Commission, and the planning board has declined to have that as a condition of any of our approvals.
Okay.
But I have shared the comment with them, so they are aware of it, and I would expect that it might be appropriate if you wrote a letter in general to the planning board members, and maybe even, quite frankly, scheduled a brief discussion with them, officially, so that all present can hear your position on that. As a consultant representing an applicant, I don't believe it should be placed in a deed. I think it's smart to have the builder, quote unquote, as they sell homes, to pass along information. That's a hard thing to enforce.
Who's going to enforce it indeed?
I personally understand the comment, and I think it's a fine idea, but I don't know how that mechanism actually gets followed up on. So I would recommend you might want to speak to the planning board as a whole and see if there's some sort of middle ground or something you might be able to achieve that way.
Does anyone else have any comments? As this is our last opportunity to make recommendations to the planning board.
Any other questions?
So you said that nothing's gonna be on the 5B7?
The internal open space lot?
Yes. And then the 5B8, those 2 areas, I'm not gonna be doing anything with?
No, there's no residential development on there.
Okay.
They will have the same basic open space covenants and restrictions as all of the lots. Once again, it's just the 2 lots in particular that the town will have a further easement over.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ken.
Okay, and again, the critical comments would be anything that you feel DES might benefit from, and also the planning board if you have anything else. So if you did end up writing a letter that says we would hope the planning board might consider the restriction on fertilizer and pesticides, et cetera, then it would be in writing, and I could bring it up to them once again and let them decide if they felt it was appropriate to then make as a condition. So I'm not opposed to having that come out of your group. I just don't know if it would be acted upon.
So just a few clarifications, clerical type things, so I can do my job. So do you not have any general comments for the planning board on the subdivision?
Other than the fact that I would like to obviously pass along our expectation of the builder, in their final prep of these lots or using low phosphate, no phosphate type of fertilizers.
So tell me what you prefer. Low
Well, I
phosphate,
say
no
no
phosphate.
phosphate. I mean, that's a very, very wet area. I mean, without exception, that's a wet area, and everything flows down to, one into Merry Meeting, into the area, into back in Mitchell Woods, where we're already having issues with grass growing in,
Yeah.
in
No, I'm just being your clerk, so just tell me what you want to write.
Yeah.
You don't have to justify it to me.
As well, when you said the the sides where the wall's going to be
Mhm.
constructed on, wetland crossing 1, you said there will likely be grass planted in there. So if that's being done by the contractor that's doing that, we would recommend.
We generally have a wetlands seed mix specified in our details for that type of work. We hadn't anticipated until recently having those retaining walls to keep that 5-foot separation. We were hopeful that we could just have sloped fill that a critter, if you will, could climb up and over. But that wasn't the case. It was, like I said, we had a waiver request for consideration, but it wasn't going to be supported, so we withdrew that.
Okay. So you'd like to pass along using a wetland mix? Sorry, which one is that? Is that C6 or is that?
I would say at all wetland crossings.
Okay.
If there's any adjacent disturbed area, it's be appropriate.
So back to your comic gauge, no phosphate, slow release nitrogen.
Yes.
Would it be appropriate for the conservation, Matt, you got concerns about the wall. Gage, you had concerns about the size of the pipe. Would it be appropriate, I mean, even though it's not our jurisdiction, about the retaining wall, to just make a comment about the effects that it might have on wildlife crossing? Would that be appropriate? I don't know.
Would we rather see one larger opening?
No, I like the square box, like the flat bottom box, but we're gonna be up against.
I mean, all you're doing is making a comment. Now's your time to make a comment. If that's what you feel, I'd say make the comment. If they throw it out, that's fine.
Expanding a vernal pool, a known vernal pool. It's a good point, Jody. It's a known vernal pool, and it would definitely be, a location that you'd want to keep the pool as, fortuitous as possible. So a big, a flat bottom type box or something in that type of style would be a benefit. But
So which location is that? Is that?
Wetland crossing 1.
Yeah, I know, but they don't have the same map. What it is on the plans?
If,
C3, you said C3?
do you want it on the referencing the subdivision or the wetlands application? Does it matter to you? It would be on sheet P3, 14 of 27, on the subdivision plan set.
It's marked C. I know some of them are marked with a C number on them.
C6,
C6.
culvert C6.
Okay. Okay. So that's planning board. How about DES? Anything to pass along to DES?
I would say the same comment on that box culvert on C6.
Okay. So what's it noted in the wetlands permit?
Still identified as culvert C6. It's on sheet Y-3.
Okay. Anything else?
Matt, you want to throw anything about the retaining wall while you have a chance? Just say now's the time. Okay.
Right, so last clerical thing. When do you expect discussions on the easement language, so I can play it for it?
It would be after June 2nd, if we were fortunate to have a conditional approval. That would then set the motion for all of the legal documents to be prepared. I expect that, although we have forwarded and included the conservation easement language that currently is in place on the school property, I would expect that DES, they have a particular form lately, the standard terms and conditions of what they like to see, and I'm imagining that we would marry the two together. One's a stock sort of blank form ready to have information added to it, and one's specific to what's on the ground adjacent to this. So I think we could take the parts and pieces and put that together, and then timing of that might be later in June, I'd imagine.
Okay.
It could be early July by the time we get that written and out for review.
Right. As most boards, we have a reduced schedule in the summer.
Understood.
Yep.
I would think the conditional approval period is going to be fairly lengthy. Sometimes it's 3 to 6 months. I would expect it would be more than 6 months on this particular project. So, understanding that if we delay getting you a document for your input or your, approval endorsement, that's on us. So,
Yeah, 'cause
especially given your reduced schedule in the summer.
Yeah, and we have a process, because we have to get through the town council as well.
Exactly, sure.
After one town council, we have to go to the town council.
I get it.
Okay.
I'm aware.
Different spellings of the word, but
And like you, I have several pieces and parts on my side of this equation too to work through. So
Yep.
there's several layers.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Gage, do you recall when you joined us? Just so I can put it in the minutes. It was about,
Probably 5 or 6 minutes late.
yeah, I thought it was about 6:40 or 6:45.
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll call it 6:45 before Engage joined us. All right? Okay, thanks. Thank you. All right, so now we're to the Flatley Company. Talk about some residential units. This is our project meeting, isn't it?
Too many of these at once.
Yeah.
Everybody gets all the stuff at graduation time.
Good evening, my name is Nathan Chamberlain with Fieldstone Land Consultants.
Yeah, can I get you to sign my sheet for me? That way we get your spelling right and everything. Yeah. So Nathan, I'm gonna need you to pull that mic a little bit closer to you, or move your tripod or your map a lot closer to the seat. That way I can get you on the microphone, so our minutes taker gets an accurate representation of the meeting. Because you're more than welcome to pull it real close if you'd like. You go. Yep.
As I stated, Nathan Chamberlain with Fieldstone Land Consultants. We're here this evening to discuss the multifamily residential project for the Flatley Companies on map 6E, lot 3-1. And this parcel is an existing parcel. It's located up on the north side of town. The Homestead restaurant's here, and the fire station's here, and you're probably familiar with, it's a large open field. The old fish hatchery and St. Gobain. Flatley Company spent several months before the Merrimack Planning Board last fall, I guess it was, discussing a mixed-use development for this parcel. They own this lot, which is highlighted here, and then all this around the St. Gobain, as well as this, and this up here, and the old fish hatchery. Well, this is part of this lot, and the fish hatchery. The only thing they don't own is the St. Gobain piece. So they own this whole piece here. And so they were before the planning board, and they did a mixed-use development utilizing the rest of this land, this parcel, and across the front here and over in here. This one in back was slated for FW Webb, but due to site constraints, they've decided to abandon the project and move elsewhere with it. So we're currently just working on this section, the portion of the project, and on this lot, and that's what's before you tonight, and that's what will be submitted to the planning board for approval shortly. So what we're proposing on this lot is, like I said, a multifamily residential development. It's 5 buildings, 48 units per building, for a total of 240 units. There is a clubhouse up front here, small clubhouse with a swimming pool and some tennis courts. Dumpling Brook does traverse the property here, and the Merrimack River is down below here, and the railroad tracks separate us from the Merrimack River. There's an island here, and I don't know how familiar you are with the area, but there's a sandbar, and evidently people get down there to the sandbar. I'm not really sure, because I did walk down here to scope out the drainage. All these 3 lots are owned by the town. They were once owned by the same people that own this, and I think Flatley owned them and sold them to the town 10 years ago or something like that. But anyway, so the stormwater, Dunkley Brook comes down through here, or Dumpling Brook, I'm sorry, and then there's an old box culvert under the railroad tracks, and then out to here. And I did, as I mentioned, I walked down through here, and this is quite a drop off down to the water, huge ravine, and there's a trail that comes down, and this is a huge bluff overlooking the river, and somehow they get down to that sandbar. I'm not sure. It looks like you get pretty adventurous to get down there, but anyway. We have done drainage comps, and that was submitted with the application. We're proposing, I can flip to, I guess some more site stuff to talk about. We are, as part of the town's requirements, we are required to put a sidewalk across the frontage of the property. They have agreed to let us come down into the site and put a sidewalk across the field here. So this covers our requirements to put a sidewalk across our frontage, and we'll come back out here. And there is a sidewalk across the street here. It's a curbed sidewalk across the street. And we also are proposing to put a trail all the way around down here. There's existing gravel roads here, and another one here on this portion of the property, and there's another one here. This one looks like how people are coming down to get to the water through here. But we'll be looping down and then come back up the trail and then backing around to make a loop trail for people to jog or walk or whatever. And we are proposing some garages. Each garage will have 10 spaces in it, 10 cars, and they'll pay extra, obviously, for those units. These are higher end apartment buildings. They're 4 stories high. They're building them right now over in Nashua and South Nashua they call it Terra Heights. And that they basically rent them as fast as they can put them up, even though there's other apartments in that area. If you're familiar with South Nashua, there's apartments everywhere, but I guess people just want to be in the newer building. But they are nice units, very nice looking building. And so there are 5 proposed garages as well. And there's also a handicap bay in each garage. And as I mentioned, tennis courts and a playground here. The town has pretty stringent requirements for parking, and so they really require more parking than is typically needed by this type of use. So we're proposing, and when we're going through the conditional use permit process, a lot of these abutters obviously weren't in favor of this project, and they, we try to keep as much green space in between them and the buildings and the parking as they could. So we do have, to meet our parking demand, we do have, I think in the application you have, it says 67, but it's really 47 future spaces. We do need to show that we can get them on the property and that it works fine. So that's what we've done. We've graded it all out and everything because we're kind of cutting into the hillside here. Even though you go out there, it looks flat. It's like there's a hill here. But we are kind of cutting in the hillside here. And so there's a swale along the uphill side of this parking that directs the runoff to either side. Mainly from here, there's a high point like here, gets it down into there. So that is proposed future parking to meet our requirements. We do, even with the future, we don't have quite enough to meet the requirement on the part that we are paving, but we have a little bit more than we need with the future, so there is some leeway there to cut back on some of the spaces. I think in Nashua, where they parked them, Nashua, they give you a window, a minimum of this, but no more than that. So they're like in the middle. It's like 1.75 spaces per unit, 2 spaces per unit. There is a breakdown of the bedrooms. I'm not sure what the breakdown is as far as 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. I think it's around 50-50. It might be a little bit more one way or the other. But that's what drives your parking demand is the bedroom unit. And that's what, in Merrimack, it's driven by the bedroom. So that's why the parking demand is so high. And so on the stormwater end, this is all sand. There is in through here, it has been disturbed and regraded. And the hillside is kind of a till. But once you get down in the lower reaches, this is all deep sand. And so this is where we're putting our stormwater. So we're collecting the stormwater. Basically, the top front half here drains and down to this location and goes over to this stormwater management area. And then the remainder of the parcel is collected and then is directed down to a stormwater management area down here. Shoreland protection line is here, the 250-foot shoreland. And so we basically, from there on, we grade up, I don't know, like 4 feet to the top of a burn and then back down, maybe 6. It's not very deep basin. It started off being a lot deeper, and we could certainly make it a lot deeper because we never hit seasonal. We dug as deep as we could with an excavator, and we didn't hit seasonal down there. So, but in doing the drainage calcs, this basin is actually bigger than what we really need. So we made it a little less deep and a little more gradual side slope. So it's fairly gentle. The way it broke out is there's more runoff going to this one than we initially anticipated. We do receive a lot of runoff coming off the adjacent properties. The restaurant is all pavement. They have no stormwater and just sheet flows onto our property. So that's kind of what's driving. Then Allen Road here and I think it's Hilltop Lane over here. This whole corner drains down to this wetland. Then you have some of the houses, they drain and feed this wetland. There is a swale that goes from this wetland down, and there's a culvert in here somewhere, an existing culvert. So that would be, in the proposed plans, that would be eliminated in our proposed drainage system would take over. We do have the buffer. You have a 40-foot building setback from the wetlands, correct? And then a 25-foot wetland buffer.
Yeah, no disturb buffer, 25 foot.
Right. So I'm not sure if we're right on the edge of the buffer over here. The buffer, what's shown here is the building setback and not the buffer line. Then we are clipping the buffer here.
Which buffer now, the 25 footer or the 40 foot?
25 foot.
Okay.
We are clipping the buffer right in here, but that's it's a driveways are permitted use. Correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
So this is a driveway, so that's why we thought that would be okay. And then this is, I think we're out of the buffer. We're right on the edge with our grading in here. But again, that's the gradings for a drainage swale or drainage, which again I think is a permitted use within the buffer as well. So, and we also have a swale alongside of the parking in the buffer, but that's to keep the runoff coming off the parking lot out of the buffer and keep it directed into our stormwater system. And that's shown in greater detail in the grading plans. But and you know, as I mentioned, and we have met with the Lower Merrimack River Advisory Committee, and I don't think we hadn't had all the drainage worked out at that time, and they'd wanted this area in the middle to be, you know, they'd suggest maybe making that rain garden, but it's really, the grading is not conducive to it, and there's really nothing left over once you grade in to get some drainage and get all the drainage to pitch down to this location. So we did put some rain gardens up in here. There's 1 and 2. They're very shallow, flat areas, and they're basically just mitigating the water that's coming onto our site from other properties. So
So the proposed trails, are those going to impact the buffers, or are they going to stay out of the buffer?
for the most part, yes. I mean, this trail, this one here is outside the buffer, but we are crossing through the buffer here. The woods is trails all through here right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is an RV bridge here already. So we'd basically just upgrade that bridge. And they have them cross here.
ATV.
Like a snowmobile,
ATV? Okay.
ATV, snowmobile bridge.
I was thinking RV.
Yeah, I know,
Oh.
right, yeah.
I was thinking motorhome.
Yeah, you're like, oh.
No, it's just one of these, you know, a couple of telephone poles and boards across it.
Okay.
Like that.
Yeah, so, yeah, you'll have to follow some strict rules about putting a bridge across that then.
Okay.
DES will be involved with that discussion probably.
And what's your, what type of trail? Is it stone dust or?
Yeah, like a stone dust trail.
So you create some more impervious surface.
I wouldn't call it impervious, but it's all been accounted for in the drainage computation, so. I mean, the idea is to keep them, keep it segregated from the parking, and this just looked like an obvious location to do it, and keep it up, it goes around the edge of the grading here. There's really not much flow here if you go out there and look at it. What's happened here, when I initially I didn't get out there to look at it until after I had done the design, unfortunately, but there's like some logs or something piled up here, and it's creating the pond. But yeah, like I said, I mean, we are crossing at the narrowest point here, and it just seems like a logical location. I suppose we could bring it around and run it along the parking. Then you're gonna get encroaching down in here. So
Yeah, I'm just trying to see what the value proposition is for a trail as opposed to disturbing the wetland, that's all.
well, we wouldn't be disturbing the wetland.
You'd be crossing it.
We're not posing any wetland disturbances. Sorry, the hatching didn't really come on in these prints very well. What are we talking about in here? And unfortunately, the buffer line is not shown on these plans. This plan set's like about a 50% set, so there's obviously some cleanup that needs to take place. But, we're just on the edge of it here, and we're crossing through it here, and then we're in it here as well. Fortunately, it's right on the break line. So, what we're proposing here, so we have a lot of runoff, like I mentioned, coming down off the subdivision into this wetland and coming down through here. And right now, there's a swale that comes down where this riprap is. These two riprap is where the existing culvert is. So it breaks out of where it's backed up by looks like logs or something, and it breaks out and comes into the swale and then down into here and out into the brook. So what we're proposing to is, we don't want to put this runoff that's coming up from the off-site into our drainage system and treat it, because we shouldn't have to. I mean, it's already there and it's already being treated through the wetlands. So we're just piping that right through, basically to the same location it's currently going. And we'll be putting like a plunge pool, a hole, and then a level spreader, which is more than what it's got here. So they could then continue to feed the brook in the same location it currently is. So that's what that culvert's all about. Then we have another.
Before you move on.
Yep.
What's the slope like where you're putting the level spreader down to the brook?
Down in here?
Yeah, it looks like those lines are pretty close. Is that a steep slope?
Yeah. But that's what it's going down through there now, so. The point is, you're gonna let it build up and then go over this berm. I mean, it'll be designed to DES standards. That's how they.
So right, it's dropping on the backside of the berm, and then it's gonna fill up and flow over. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
It's like a bathtub. It's gonna fill up and then go over. It's about a 30-foot long berm.
Yeah.
That'll be level, so it's not a concentrated flow. You know, it's gonna reconcentrate down in here.
Right.
But the idea is to try to mitigate as much as you can.
How deep is that? I mean, how deep is that water going to be before it flows over?
I think it's a couple of feet deep.
Are there any plans for like snow management? There's a lot of parking spaces, a lot of area to be plowed.
Yes, I mean, like I had mentioned, this is that didn't make it on this plan set, the snow storage areas, but there's ample green space around the perimeter of the parking areas to store snow. You got large swales all over the place, so. But we'll get that on the final plan, because that did come up at the River Advisory Committee meeting as well. So, and especially up front, there's a lot of area up front. There's a large buffer here for snow storage as well.
A buffer, but it slopes down towards the detention pond, correct?
Well, this is actually like a hole right here. It's a small depression.
Okay.
And again, this looks a lot steeper on the plan than when you actually get out there.
Mm-hmm.
So you gonna have any water oil separation in the drains or any of
the catch basins will have hoods on them, gas and oil separators, and then there is this is the forebay, so that's basically a sediment trap. And then these are infiltration basins. Both of these are infiltration basins. Okay. And we give more than ample space to seasonal. I mean, these things could be much deeper than they are. We have 160 inches to seasonal, and that's basically as far as the machine could dig. So, like I mentioned in the onset, it's a large sand deposit. It's basically outwash from the river. So you get your treatment from the sand layer, just like a septic system. So that's what's going to be your treatment. And we are in the wellhead protection district, so we'll have to meet. We're going to work with the village district, develop a plan for low phosphate fertilizers and de-icing materials that meet their requirements, which is no calcium chloride. So we will be working with them and come up with a stringent plan for doing the fertilizer and the de-icing. So.
And where you're saying these are a 50% plan, are we going to be seeing this again?
Not unless we have to. The plan, it's unless it's changed from the planning board, the actual layout, it's just that more detail will be added.
So did you have to change the zoning on this?
No, this is an industrial zone. It is a permitted use through the master plan process, or the conditional use permit process, and that's what they had gone through. So part of this, As I had mentioned, as part of conditional use permit, they had a lot of commercial up here, and then also on this, they had, part of this was utilized or earmarked for commercial as well. And then the residential segment. So this is residential segment, and one of the conditions of the conditional use permit was that they couldn't build all 5 buildings until they had some kind of either industrial or commercial component in it. So building 5, they can't build building 5 until they have some kind of commercial component as well. So they have to get another user here before they can build the 5th building.
At one point, we saw a high bay storage.
That was the Flatley one, but
That was on the other side of the road, isn't it?
Right, that's down in here.
Yeah.
That is, that went away when the FW Web came in, because they're using part of that, but that is back on the table, and if you drive by there, you see the sign out there, they're advertising it.
Right.
So they are trying to market that for a user.
And which one is building number 5?
The one up on the hill?
Okay.
Right, so on this particular parcel, that's the extent of the development there. There'll be no commercial addition to that lot, 6E3-1.
No. This, on the plan that was approved by the conditional use permit, there was a lot line in here. So,
So there could be an additional use in that area,
right, we'd have to subdivide this parcel
yeah,
and break off the residential portion,
right.
and it's got to be a certain area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand.
So,
I was just curious if there was a restriction on this parcel at this point.
no,
but there's
this
not.
parcel is approximately 74 acres,
Mhm.
and we're only utilizing about 23 of it. 23 acres of it, so we're only using about a third of it.
True. Well, and there's a part of it you can't use, so.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I think, in addition to that, the FW Web was taking a big chunk of it down here on this side of the brook. So FW, when we were going through the conditional use permit process, FW Web was still on the table, and they were taking all this land, as well as some up in here as well, but they were using all this. So a portion of it was going to FW Web, and a portion of it was going to the commercial component of the master plan. So I guess what, we'd like input from the board, obviously, your thoughts on the path that we had talked about. Crossing the wetland with a wooden bridge with no impact to the wet. Any comments you had on the drainage?
Right, so this is Seward and Watered, right?
Correct, sewer and water.
Yeah.
There is a sewer easement that, a town sewer line that runs through.
Yep. Okay, so the town's already reviewed that part of it, or not yet?
Not yet,
Okay.
no.
All right, so back to the trail. My preference is not to see the trail. I don't see the benefit, but that's my preference. At least the trail that gets close to the wetland buffer.
Okay.
And I'm sure the neighbors would appreciate that as well, not having the trail there.
Well, as I mentioned, there's trails all through the woods. You can see people have been riding their four-wheelers through there. And
Yep.
it really,
Well, that's why they're not going to appreciate it, because you're going to take away their ATV park, and then you're going to have people walking back and forth in what they perceive as their backyard. So
right. Well, that's fine. That's what we're here for. I mean,
I don't know how the rest of the commission
No,
feels.
I mean,
but
I like the concept of the trail. I don't like it going through the wetlands. I mean, I think it's a good,
Yeah.
I'd like to see them, encourage that type of activity, but certainly not through the wetlands.
yeah, I mean, I have no issue with the trail in the east side when you get close to the railroad tracks and down the river and all that, but simply trying to traverse around the parking lots when you could just walk through the parking lot.
okay.
I don't see the benefit, so. But I don't know how the rest of you feel.
I think if the bridge were to be permitted by DES, it would improve upon what is currently there, which appears to be creosote-soaked poles and a probably in the
Probably
wetland.
in the in the water.
Mm.
I think whatever DES would recommend over that area would be much better than what's there.
If the trail weren't constructed, would that bridge just be removed? What's there now?
I bet it would just be left.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't see why they would remove it. It just deteriorate. So
If it's telephone poles, it's not going to deteriorate. All soaked in creosote and or
yeah.
formaldehyde, whatever. It depends on their age, but
Well, I kind of agree with you, Tim, but when you talk about trail construction, that's just a whole nother,
Yeah.
I don't know, an issue. And when you talk about putting down stone dust, to me, that's just like building a little mini road. And I think in theory, it's a really nice idea, but I personally would like to see a lot more definitive plans before I would say that I was okay with that.
Sure. I mean, we can explore other options on as far as the actual
My only
construction
concern
material.
is if you take that bridge out of there, then people are gonna be going actually through the water. So I don't have a good solution for if they don't create the trail, what to do with that bridge. I don't have a good solution for that.
Well, I don't think they'd use the area at all then. They'd stay on the parking lots, and that'd be the end of it. That'd be my impression. If there's no,
Yeah, I don't think the residents would go through there, but I don't know about the abutters, whoever's using it now.
well,
Sure, it's more of a snowmobile bridge, and they go out in the field with their snowmobiles.
yeah, and that whole
now
use is gonna end
going
as
to
soon
be
as
gone.
as soon as the
Right.
construction starts, so.
well, you do get some traffic along the railroad up into that area.
Yeah, there's a lot of four-wheelers down there.
They come along the railroad and up into that space too.
Yeah, that's what I was.
They won't anymore, though.
Here, you can see there's
Yeah.
a lot of traffic going up here.
It's
Yeah.
doable.
Yeah, but they won't be going up to the wetland that's up in the middle of
No.
the parking lot, so.
So on this big map, where did you say the optimal snow storage is?
Well, we'd be storing it along the edge of pavement, just like any road, and then, all along through here, there's plenty of room to store the snow. And then in this green space as well. And in this green space and along the perimeter of the parking. Pretty much just around the perimeter, I think, so we'd be storing it.
And
So-
the rest would be off-site?
Oh, no, it would just get pushed off into the, they'd find a spot on site. I mean, you got all this green space.
What kind of elevation change do we have between the tennis courts and, say, the most eastern parking lot?
Down here?
Yeah, from there all the way up to, say, to the
Um,
clubhouse.
it's about 30 feet,
Over
1,000 feet or more. It's more than that. It's
more
like,
than 1,000, yeah.
it's more like
There must
1,500.
be a topo.
Okay. No, I just wanted to get an idea, because there is a low spot in there as well, so.
We do have the erosion control plan shows the whole site. And it has a buffer on it. So, this is elevation 190, and this is elevation, let's see, 160. This is 164.
Mm-hmm, okay.
This is just the building finished work just below 190 or 189.5, I think. And this one is at 170.
So the reason why I ask is these getting to salt and de-icing compounds. And I'm trying to, in my mind, determine whether I think they're even necessary on this site.
Yeah, it's not much of a grade.
Right. given the closeness to the river, streams, and everything else, is there any reason to require salt in the wellhead area? Or allow salt, I should say, not require. So my recommendation would be
Sand.
is to not utilize salt or de-icing compounds in this complex.
Yeah, I don't know if that's, I mean, there's non-sodium types of de-icing. It's a safety issue. You can't have people slipping in ice.
I understand that, so
So.
you can argue that with the planning board. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to be blunt.
No,
But-
that's, no,
But,
that's, it's in the wellhead and it's right next to the river, which is the two prime.
I mean, we do this in other places as well.
Right, so
Is the commission in consensus with that position I just stated?
I am,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
So, and the,
All we do is make a recommendation to the
Right.
planning board, and they.
I mean, in the other instances, they must have done something to protect people from slipping and hurting themselves.
One of them is a 55 and older community, and it's probably 2 miles south of this position,
Okay?
and they have sand use only.
Well, that's what I mean, sand.
Sand,
Yeah,
right, yeah.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
but not salt, no calcium chloride and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Sand,
no chemical,
Sand
no
and-
chemical
sand and-
de-icing.
right, sand and adequate, snow removal. So,
All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you can't use sand, I understand that. I mean, that introduces a maintenance issue for the culverts and, or the storm water, but that's normal practice anyways. So,
Well, as I mentioned, we'd work with the MVD and
yeah,
come up with a plan that satisfies everyone.
So I'm looking at the planting, which is 27, page 27 and 29. The first bush you have in there is burning bush.
Really?
Yeah. So
That's got to be a holdover.
yeah, I would say that's an old plan.
That's a bad cut and paste right there.
So we have our typical standard thing is we'd like to make sure all trees, bushes, shrubs are all native species,
Sure.
because we don't want to be the one introducing the next invasive.
All right, so getting back to fertilizer, I noticed that there's a few comments in the plans on fertilizer, and they're contradictory to each other.
The construction details I haven't really gone through, but.
Probably will the next time, though.
It was 27.
What did it say, burning bush? Shouldn't even say it.
Oh, yeah, it just said, well, the B and B, that's what the,
Oh, that's ball and bag.
oh, okay.
Can't be going.
All right, so on that sheet, though, under general specifications, number 9.
Okay.
Says all seeded areas shall receive a minimal 6-inch topsoil blanket, blah, 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 general cleanup, and then include pre-emergence type herbicide, and then granular fertilizer of 12-25-12, which happens to be more phosphate than any other item. As a general rule, we ask that before the use of fertilizer is used, that the soils be tested to indicate whether or not they truly need a fertilizer. And that when one's adopted, that it's a low phosphate, slow release nitrogen fertilizer.
Sure.
So, in fact, you have some of those comments in here on page 25. when you look at notes 15 and 16, they contradict themselves in fertilizer. One of them talks about testing and slow release, and the other one says 10-10-10. So that's note 15, speaks to 10-10-10, and I was wondering if that is just for the temporary disturbance areas, not the final grade?
Yeah, it would be for the temporary, because it's part of that drill.
Yeah. But again, our general comment on fertilizer use is more like note 16 down below, where we tell folks to test first.
Okay.
And then,
Note 19 as well. It says dust control with water and or calcium chloride. Is that water and or salt?
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
You just stick just with water.
Yeah, it's the use of water.
so how does calcium chloride assist in dust control?
To be honest, I don't know how that got in there or why it's in there. Apologize for that.
Okay, what else do I have? So besides the trails, there were what, 2 areas where you were gonna
Encroach into the buffer?
yeah, the 25-foot buffer?
Yes,
Was it just 2, or were there more than 2 areas?
just 2.
And those are necessary because of the flow for the parking area? You're on which sheet?
This is the 12. It just gives an overview in the buffer shown.
Yeah, I just wanna follow along.
Sure.
Okay.
Basically over here with this low value wetland over here, we have the driveway that clips it,
Mm-hmm.
and then this drainage swale here, just towards the end of it.
Is the corner of the playground in there too?
No, that's not in there. And then we have the trail, which we've
Yep.
agreed we're not gonna have, so it's just this area in here, which is a driveway and a drainage swale. And over here, we're just on the edge of it, but again, that's the drainage swale as well, and then this is there's a berm over here, but that's on the edge as well, which is part of the rain garden. So it's really just down this corner.
Okay. And it's all associated with the underground culvert and all that too?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so that's already mostly. And there's already something existing there anyways, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I don't have an issue with that one. So stormwater coming off the buildings and stuff like that, is it all captured and directed into one of your stormwater treatment areas?
For the most part, yeah. There's a couple areas that aren't,
Okay.
but we can certainly, look at that.
Well, I'm just curious, if it's not being captured by your own mechanisms, then is it sheet flowing somewhere? Or
Yeah,
is
it's just sheet flows.
Okay, across the parking lot or
No,
across?
into the green
across-
space. It's only in the backs. So you basically have a ridge line down these buildings. It
Yeah.
runs down the middle.
Yeah,
So this side's going into the drainage system, and this side's going into the green space, and just sheeting.
Yeah, because, well, that green space leads right into the brook and all that, so I was just curious if there was any treatment or capture of it, or is it,
Well, it's roof runoff, so it's considered clean,
yeah,
and you do have a substantial buffer between here and the brook that would, if there was any
Yeah.
pollutants, they would be
Okay.
treated.
I'm assuming there'll be some sort of gravel or something at the bottom of at the runoff off the roof so it doesn't
Yeah, drip
destroy.
edge.
Drip edge, right, so it doesn't tear up your landscaping, because I'm sure there's some velocity coming off of four stories,
That's for sure.
yeah.
Are there,
I mean, go ahead.
decks?
Yeah, there are decks. I have a closer to the building. Scale plan here. So, these patio areas, there's decks above these, that go all the way up. So, you know, this is concrete on the ground floor, but above it is a little corner deck. Same thing with pretty much all these concrete pads, like in between these bump outs, the deck in between the building, and it goes all the way up. So each apartment has a little deck there. That's, you know, they don't go outside this footprint. They're just basically infills. Okay.
All right, and then my last question is about the playground. Is there gonna be some sort of a playground material on the playground?
It would be like a bark mulch or wood chip type thing.
All right, so that's not gonna create more impervious soil then?
Right.
If there's an existing trail, where they were thinking about building a trail back here by the playground, right?
We don't have them well, like this trail here and these, and, you know, they're not all located, but this is just crisscross, the trail's out in the woods.
Yeah, my concern is if they don't have a trail or make a trail, that everybody's just gonna be using all those existing paths through the woods.
They all dead end with the development. They all
Yeah,
dead
they're
end in a
not gonna go
parking lot.
anywhere.
They all dead end in a parking lot now.
Particularly the wetland crossing, if you remove the bridge, you're not gonna get people walking through the water
Yeah.
Right,
typically.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like 8.
Yeah, I mean, those trails will cease to be utilized at some point.
Long as it-
while to get used to there being a building there and then
Right.
they'll stop.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
I like
who-
the idea of the trail. I mean, I think it's a good idea to have the, you know, to, circumferential trail like that. That's a good idea, but no, I don't want it through the wetlands.
yeah.
Well, we'll take a look at what we can do there to address your concerns and come up with a solution.
So what are these check dams, installed check dams?
It's typically, that's a
Right.
DES thing. I mean, back in the day, they used to do hay bales. But this way, it filters better. The hay bales is just basically, so you basically put a pile of stone in the swale, and so the sediment, it traps the sediment
Filters through the stone.
against the stone. And the, you know, in big storms, it goes over the berm. And then you're supposed to rip those out once everything's stabilized. They're only supposed to be temporary. A lot of times they get left in. But this is, you know, we're gonna have to get DES approval on this, obviously, site-specific permit. So they'll be reviewing all the drainage calcs as well. Plus, it's gonna have peer review through CLD.
Great. All right, any other questions, concerns, comments? So for planning board, speak about our trail concerns, the salt or de-icing chemicals, landscaping native species, fertilizer test, remove the calcium chloride, and that's it, right? Did I miss anything?
native species.
Yeah,
and plantings.
right, yep, got that, yep.
There is a reference to a hay bale barrier.
Really? You found one? Yeah.
Under page, sheet number 25, under general notes, number 4.
Yeah, they still do use hay bales.
Yeah, so we ask folks to use straw as opposed to hay.
Okay.
So we would like you to change all references from hay to straw. Right, yeah. And then lastly, I know it's getting late. So the rain gardens, can you, for the public who watches our meetings, and believe it or not, people do, can you educate folks on what they're all about? Because it's an interesting concept and people should be aware of that.
Sure. It's a best management practice, and you basically, it's a shallow depression that you plant with, you plant with different shrubs that are tolerant to a damp environment, and basically the water goes in there and it's treated by the plantings and it soaks into the ground. So it's just a shallow depression, and you plant it with various species that are water tolerant and will help treat the ground. So the vegetation treats the runoff, and it recharges into the groundwater. So it provides treatment and it provides recharge.
Yeah.
And they're usually on a small scale. They usually have a small contributing area, and they're usually shallow. So it's supposed to be it's a low impact design feature, and it provides an amenity as well, because you have basically a garden there.
Right, you have an aesthetic.
Aesthetic,
Yep,
correct.
yep, yeah.
So it serves multiple purposes.
Yeah.
There is some minimal maintenance requirement, but typically once you plant it, it should be fine, and
Mhm.
just take over. And these soils are ideal for this type of thing, and so.
Mhm. Great, thank you, appreciate that. So, we all set? Good, thank you for spending the time with us.
Sure. So as far as if we, how will we know if we need to come back to you?
Well, if the plans significantly change, you will, and I'll let Tim Thompson down in Community Development make that call,
All right.
okay?
I don't foresee that they will. It's just adding more detail, obviously addressing your concerns that you've mentioned here, and
Yeah.
go through the notes and clean that all up,
Mhm.
and work with MBD to,
Okay.
Get a plan that's accepted to them as well. So
So when do you go to Planning Board? Have you set a date yet?
we should be there on the 16th.
Okay,
That's the plan.
okay, good, that gives me a little time to put the comments together.
Yeah.
Okay. Great, yep. All right. Wow, it's getting late.
Yep.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of items left on our agenda. What's your thought? Probably, well, is there anything urgent we need to do in regards to the pipeline?
I just have a couple quick updates from the town council meeting.
Well, that'd be great, yeah. All right.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yep.
All right, it was announced at our last meeting, which was last Thursday, which was May 14th, is that right? That the town council will not be bringing forward a proposed alternate route
Okay.
through Merrimack. We've been advised by legal counsel against it, and personally, as one individual town council member, I wasn't interested in giving a proposed route to Kinder Morgan anyway. They also discussed, because Amherst had created a sort of a blackout map, a map where they identified sensitive areas in town. We're not planning to do that. When I say we, I mean the town council isn't planning to do that immediately. It's not, we may have something like that put together by some of the town employees, but the map probably would be almost entirely black. So, but at this point in time, that's not something that we're gonna move forward with either. So that was something I thought you'd wanna know. I also requested that you get a copy of the agreement, to survey through with Kinder Morgan, and the updated revisions, the back and forth between the town council and Kinder Morgan. So Eileen, I believe, sent that to you
She
today.
did, I have not looked at it.
But
yeah.
you can share that with the rest of the town council. It's a public document. It's been vetted publicly with the, at town council meetings, so feel free to share that, so that way this body will also have information to what's being agreed to, because that affects you guys too as well. Then the other thing I wanted to point out, which Cindy, you've been really good about following the FERC filing, so you may have seen this. I can't keep up with it. I really can't. There's just so much to it. But there was, I guess, FERC submitted a large document on Friday, which I'm assuming would be May 8th, because actually it was brought up under public comment at our town council meeting at like the very end of the meeting. That this document, it says it was submitted a large document, letter to Tennessee Gas Pipeline, providing comments on draft resource reports 1 and 10, filed March 13th for the planned Northeast Energy Direct project. And I've got the link to the posting if you'd like. This is where they request responses to specific towns who have submitted concerns. So they're asking Kinder Morgan to respond. Merrimack wasn't mentioned anywhere in this document.
Our filing is that same day.
Pardon me?
Probably showed up almost that same day.
Yes, but so they asked about it. So our town manager looked into it and spoke to the attorney, and we're not entirely sure what happened, because the Water District's letter was posted, the Conservation Commission's letter was posted, the town council's letter in opposition to the project was posted, but the one thing that wasn't posted, there was some miscommunication, but it will be posted now, is the ACOM response letter. So that was the only thing. So our town manager has requested that our attorney craft a letter. I think a letter went out to all of the town council. It basically reiterates positions that have been discussed publicly before. I didn't have a chance to read it before I came here either, but requesting answers to all of our questions too. There's how many questions that the town submitted to Kinder Morgan that we've yet to get a response to. So we're on that. And I think that's it.
Okay. So I put this item on here to talk about scoping comments and getting prepared for scoping meetings. I don't know if any of you took the time to do that at this point.
Are you referring to like mitigation issues?
Anything that you want to bring up at a scoping meeting, which is where FERC gets a better idea of what's going on and what our thoughts are. Have any of you had a chance to prepare comments or thoughts? Okay.
I
Right.
had a couple thoughts.
Yep.
And I throw this out to other people too. I don't take sole credit for any of of this thought process. I have lots of people feeding me information and questions that they'd like to see answered to, and I put out there about conservation type questions. And someone asked me, you know, and forgive me, the technical words. I don't have them right now, but the tunneling. There's a word for how they tunnel with the pipe. They actually. Pardon me? Yes, thank you. They talked a lot about doing that underneath water, underneath the river. So someone asked me, why can't they do that if they were to go through Horse Hill Nature Preserve? Why can't they do that everywhere? Why do they have to dig that huge trench?
It's so large, yeah.
So that was one question.
Expense.
Yeah, it's really.
The horizontal drilling.
Yeah, well, let them
I know,
let
I
them
just-
tell me because of expense. Good question.
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
And I haven't heard that proposed for like Long Pond.
Yeah, yeah. So that was one question. And then, so what happens if they hit a vernal pool or they hit something where there is an endangered species and destroy the habitat? I mean, the endangered species isn't coming back, right? So I don't know, what then?
Right.
Maybe
well,
hypothetical, rhetorical question.
Right.
So those were
Well, they have
two
to.
that I've come up with so far. I'll keep working.
Okay. Yeah, I have questions about drilling and, water quality, water testing, in order to understand whether or not they've had an impact or not, similar like what we went through with the new mall. And then general, how we can protect habitats that may be impacted or could potentially impacted by staging areas and things like that, or permanent structures that they want to put up, especially if there's a metering station or the pig ins and outs, and that sort of stuff. So
Because metering stations are not quiet. Not quiet.
no, well, yeah, compressors are even worse.
Yeah, right. Compressors are worse, but metering stations are not just something that sits
No.
there quietly in the woods. They're loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. So
Yeah. Yeah, let's go take a hike. Oh, what's this noisy thing I hear on my hike?
yeah, there's a
Oh, that's not a bird.
yeah.
That's not a swallow. It's not an oriole.
There's an article on that from
Yeah.
I think it's Pennsylvania or South Jersey or North Jersey. That
Yeah.
there's a metering station that has been a complaint for
Mhm.
a long time, and it's a Tennessee Gas. It's coming right out of.
What's
Pennsylvania.
making so much noise in the metering stations is,
Well, they're metering out the gas. I mean, you've got a large volume of gas going down to a different value, and that's going on. So there's diaphragms and pumps and orifices, and so they whistle and they're loud.
Do they blow off gas too?
They do
Yeah.
blow off. They
Yeah.
there's
And if they were to connect to this transmission line, that's where they would do it. So if there's a metering station, there's a possibility that there could be a connection for distribution there.
Right.
And they are saying that there is a very good chance that they're looking at Merrimack now for it, a placement of a metering station.
Okay. All right, well, I'll continue to leave this on our agenda.
Thank you.
The LSIP boundary walk of Wasserman Conservation Area. So, in general, 4 of us went out for a hike last Sunday. I did capture it on GPS. It was a warm morning. But I think we had a good hike. We saw lots of different things. We saw where motorized vehicles are incursion on our property, one general area. We'll have to figure out a game plan for that. So we noticed that the burning bush invasion is still there and still going strong. It's quite something. It's more than a few acres fallen. Yeah, and some of it's been around, and they're thick. I mean, these are
branches.
these are mature trees. Plants that've been there 20 years or more. So, and little sprouts are continuing to pop up all along. Yep. So that's something we're going to have to decide how we're going to deal with it. But there's a stream involved and everything else too. So we have to, which leads into Greens Pond, which brings up, wetland and water issues and all that too. So fun. Yeah, besides that, we saw some of the new trail work that's gone on out there that we've approved in the past. So I don't think there was anything otherwise that was noteworthy that were different from the past.
No.
So, no. So it's certainly very mature trails, and you've got a thought. I see you.
No.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Got lots of thoughts, just nothing on this.
No, nothing on this one. Okay. All right. So I will be preparing a report that will go to Steve Walker, and I will pass a draft amongst the folks who joined the walk so they can comment and add to it. I'll do that over the next couple of weeks.
You said there was a scout that was going to be GPSing those trails. Was that we talked about? Is that not going to happen there? Or
Well,
Or that-
no, NRPC is looking
Oh.
to GPS more trails on our properties.
okay.
I'm not aware of a scout doing that property.
So there is a scout that is going to be doing signage on the
Oh.
property.
That's it.
Yeah.
In fact, Matt Kasparius, did I say his last name correctly?
Yeah, I think so.
Close enough.
At 5:30 on Wednesday evening is leading a hike in Wasserman Park to discuss upcoming events
Yeah.
at Wasserman Park.
at the park though, right? Not on our conservation property, is he?
I think the scout, which is going to be involved with signage at Wasserman Park, also has ideas on signing trails.
Yeah,
So I was thinking that I was going to try to attend
okay.
the meeting on Wednesday, just to get a better idea of what the plans are.
Yeah, please do, because he has to come through here first.
And I think that he may have a belief that he goes to
Through
Parks
Matt?
and Rec and
Yeah,
he's
no,
done.
Not
but-
true.
So hopefully I can if I attend. If I do not attend,
It's this Wednesday, 5:30?
it's this Wednesday at 5:30. If I do not attend, I think we need to contact Matt just to make sure his plans stop at that.
Right.
wall.
Yeah, there's different rules for our property. The deed language is different and everything, so. Okay,
Almost done with that. The boy goes, I go.
Happy brief.
all right,
Yeah.
I can drop Matt a quick comment so he's aware. Okay,
Thank you.
yeah. Anything else on this agenda item? All right, so that takes us to other business. First is beaver management. We got the final draft, final report.
Yes. Yep. So it's 70-something pages. There's a couple posters in the middle of it. I think there's one. I have not been able to get back in touch with GZA today on it, but there's a conservation poster that I think it's missing some of the properties, but I'm not sure where they got the data from. So, but it's it's 70-something pages. It's got posters in the middle, so if you print it, it's gonna hiccup because you can't just print out the whole document because it's got, in the middle of it four big maps. Yeah, so you have to kind of print it in two pieces and then print the map separately. So,
Okay. So when we,
and I'm sorry, one more thing. They're finishing up on their commitment by working on the fact sheet for beaver management. So you have something we can, again for education purposes.
okay.
Should have that next week or so.
So does that final plan have to come before the commission, or have you already come to agreement on what it is that was gonna happen with the management policy?
So
I got through about half of the document and I had to do something else,
Yeah.
but I do intend on reading the whole thing. But I didn't know, I couldn't remember if it had already been formally that's okay, it was just a formal document coming back, or what we needed to do, if anything.
Yeah, we don't have a real formal agreement with the town as to how management's going to happen. We sat here and we kind of discussed, these are our responsibilities, yours, but as far as actually implementing the corrective measures, if any, there's no real formal. That was what this is. We're taking out of the plan. Going to take the there's some flow charts in the back as to how we're supposed to proceed. So that's what we're going to propose to the town to, going forward. This is how we deal with these things.
So,
Is it something you want to wait to do until everybody's had a chance to look at it, and then would I bring it back, or would you have something formal you come before formally as a commission in front of the town council?
so we're going to receive the report. That'll be the end of GZA's involvement, okay? And they also have some other deliverables to us that were in the contract, stuff for Kyle and other things like that I was hoping you could go through and make sure they've met all their deliverables, okay? That way we're clean. Then what I thought there would be a discussion here among the commission as to a proposed beaver management policy and planning, and then we would take that to the town council. In fact, when I met with them in January, I told them that the Beaver Management Plan information is coming, and we agreed that it required a separate meeting.
Thank you.
So I intended to bring that forward to the commission over the summer, and then by the fall, we would have a meeting with the town council. So,
Thanks.
yeah. In the meantime, I want to get the plan out so everyone can look at it. It will make it public. It's a public document. We'll give it to the department heads and all them so they can start absorbing it. So, okay.
So I have a few days to read it.
Yeah. Yes.
Thanks.
Right.
A few days to read.
I had an opportunity to speak to some of the folks over at Hanson Drive
Yes.
about working with their activity. Where does that one fall on the list of priorities?
A list of priorities or responsibilities?
Well, I know responsibility.
On priority, that was actually relative. I think we kind of ended up putting that pretty low because there was not a lot of flow going on. They have not. DPW is not spending a lot of time over there fixing it, and the people there like the pond.
Right.
So, and it's the amount of water that it has to contain before it starts impacting the road or anything else. There's a large volume of water that would need to be impacted before it becomes an issue. So, that became pretty low on the priority.
Okay.
But
All right.
we, unfortunately, I think Adam was the one that was interfacing with the neighborhood to try to find out,
Right.
how that's private property.
Right.
So, trying to find out who we had to talk to, what needs to happen to
Yeah.
go ahead and put a flow type device in there. So,
So I picked up that conversation,
Okay.
figuring that Adam had moved on, and that what I could do was provide that information to the right person. That's what I was curious about, the priority. So.
yeah, there's two inlets, or there's two culverts, one on the inlet side and outlet side. So, the inlet side is regularly not below water.
Mhm.
So they don't try to dam it because there's no water flowing through it.
Right.
It's only during heavy rains that it flows, and then it, kind of ebbs back off, and it's not flowing anymore. So they're happy with the pond as it is.
Yeah. There was only some concern of Public Works is out there fairly often, I was told, but I don't know. I have to
Okay.
figure out what often
Yeah,
really
Adam,
means.
yeah, at the time, Adam gave us the reports from last year saying, we only came out. They only came out there a couple times last summer. So
Yeah. Okay.
if it's rising, then we need to
Right.
or we need to provide them with some solutions.
Okay. Anything else on this item? Seedling giveaway.
Pretty successful. We had about 75 people or so come through. We bought 400 seedlings. We had about 30 or 40 left. So I've not spoken to Eber. We left it as the plan that he was going to retain the seedlings there at the orchard for a few days. You can leave the signs up there in the orchard that there were seedlings in there available. So I know there's a couple people went back and grabbed some extras. And he was going to take the extra and back to Willow Tree for, so they can at least get put in the ground.
Okay.
So it was largely successful. We have a lot of people that were pretty happy. It's a Cindy's first time there, so you get to see that it's a pretty friendly bunch. People come in there, they're looking for some support, and it was fun. We got a lot of questions this year about evergreens, so I guess next year we'll do an evergreens.
Yeah. Okay. If we get to the point where we have extras and we're not sure, we can always plant them in our conservation properties too,
Yes.
as we've done in the past.
Yep.
So let me know if we get to that point.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, we have. I think there are some cranberries left. There really was not much left. I mean, what
Yeah,
was left was pretty much all cranberry, and there was only like 20 or 30 plants left. There was odds and ends of a couple others, so
Mhm.
it was pretty well received.
Okay. Well, my 3 cranberries are leafing out pretty good. So. Yeah. And even with this dry weather, so
Yeah.
So.
And he did have a sign, Eber did have a sign out in front on the road,
Yep.
I think it was like all last week I saw it.
Mhm.
So,
And we got to see baby fox.
yes.
Yeah, that's true.
That
Yes,
was-
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad that seems to be one of our most successful years
Yeah.
that we've had in the last 4 or 5. So good.
Well, Gage did a good job of posting it in a couple places too, so I saw it publicized.
Good.
Yeah.
Had some help from Sue too, so she gets some credit.
Yeah, she did a good job. Yeah. So it's nice to have a good team downstairs. So, okay. Next, Watson Park kiosk update. I have started to follow up on the items that we talked about last week, speaking to George May and reached out to Heritage and Historical Anita Krieger, but I haven't actually got a response back. I reached out to Matt before our meeting, and he had said that there were no plans for that yet. So, in general, though, I'm still looking for someone who wants to own the kiosk from our group, because if you all recall, I wasn't in favor of it. So it's not a project. It's not it's not a project I'm looking forward to doing. So.
I stopped and looked at it. It's huge.
Yeah.
should see everything we volunteered you for.
I saw some of that.
Busy man.
I almost
So-
sent you an email to warn
It's
you. Don't come
huge.
home, Mike.
Yeah. So.
Just since Mike is the tallest one,
Yeah.
the only one that can reach.
You need a ladder.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So there'll be more to come on that. Okay, because I'm not going to own this project. Okay. I did hear from Jeff Littleton today. They've started their trappings in order to mount the transmitters and start collecting the data. He has been taking his interns out there and training them over the last couple of weeks, so he's getting support that way. He's had a botanist visit the site, and they'll be spending more time on the site looking for rare plants and species. And they've already started to identify some items for us. He's been documenting vernal pools, did earlier this year, did a lot of GIS work and mapping to support his going out in the field now and validating what he found through all that. He's going to do bird surveys. They're going to be starting soon with Audubon. Laura, forget her name, Laura Deming?
Oh, Audubon?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there'll be bird surveys that are starting up. He has been noticing a lot of snake activity, but besides the ring snake, did I get that right? He hasn't seen any racers or hognose at this point. He is going to put up what he calls sheep boards or cover boards. And what they do is they provide cover for snakes, and you leave them out in the woods, and every now and then you lift the cover and you take a look. Oh, is there one there or not? So,
Is he gonna
Yeah.
mark them?
yeah, he's
Does he mark them with kind of what they are so people just don't pick them up and, toss them? Okay.
so. I believe so, but
Saw a
that was.
rattlesnake
I'll
on
make
the
sure that I raised that point with him. So.
Well, if you say caution snake, some people will leave them alone. Some people will go, I'd go lift it.
That's right. Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
I'd check it out. My wife would be running the other direction. Yeah, or not ring, ribbon snakes.
Ribbon snakes.
Yes, so he's seen a lot of ribbon snakes. So he says he's making good progress. And he's been spending a lot more time. I think classes are done now, so he's got that ability to get things done. So he will keep going. He had a couple of other minor questions that I'll get back to him on, process type stuff. So he is interested in understanding when or not he's going to be joined by Tennessee or their people out there, because he'd like to be aware of that. So
We don't have an agreement yet.
that's what I told him.
Mhm.
So he said just let him know when or if we come to that spot, because he'd like to be aware of that.
Yep.
So
I did see some orange flags, like some big, shiny orange flags.
yeah,
I
On
don't know
Horse
what-
Hill?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you think it was him, probably?
I don't know. I'd talk to Newt, or I can email Newt if you'd like, because if I'm not aware of them, and if the subcommittee hasn't put them up, then they're game for coming down.
Or is it Jeff?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Like maybe he wants to identify, yeah. something.
Could be markings or things he's put out. Yeah.
It'd be good to make sure, though, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Why spend the money again?
If you find out something else, let me know.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I can do that. So that's all I have for an update. just to let you know we are making good progress, so that's good. Anything else under other business? I guess quickly, next meeting, I have another commitment, can't be here. We have one project on the horizon. It's a small project, single sheet plan for the old Pizza Man property right down here behind the library, or down on the other side of the adult community center. Those of you who've been around long enough to remember there was a Pizza Man there.
Yeah,
So
was it, yeah,
it was
remember
my
that.
first job. So I got my first car. So many years ago. Back when,
That was,
yes, back when the police station was at the adult community center. That's how long ago that was.
Is that where the crosswalk from Twin Bridge goes and there's that white building? Is that the white building? Is that the Pizza Man?
The white building. I'm
Well,
not sure.
used
So
to be a card shop,
Card shop. Bergen's,
yeah.
I think card shop right there.
Yeah.
It's across from MYA kinda.
yeah, right across the street from the
Okay.
NYA building.
Where the
It's-
cross? Because
Yeah, and they've kind of put rocks in where
Yeah.
people would normally park in front of
Yes.
the building, but there's rocks now, so you can't park
is
there.
that the building?
That's the
Yeah.
building.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, so that was, it's a restaurant proposal.
Oh.
So, and,
Oh,
I mean,
good.
so, yeah,
I thought people were
Is
living
it a
there.
fast food,
I think so.
fast food there, or is it a,
No,
like a restaurant?
restaurant,
Oh,
yep.
good.
yeah.
So that's March, we're June, right? June 1st?
June 1st, yeah.
You're not gonna.
So, but that's the only item on the agenda. You'll have to let me know what other items you'd like on the agenda, since I could put a whole lot of things on there, but I'm not gonna be there, so you can decide to table them all if you want, so. So tell me what else you'd like to discuss at that meeting. So I can confirm that that project is necessary for that meeting in case you wanted the day off. Okay? So, all right?
Are we taking up declassifying that Greater Road in the near future? Or
Well, what has to happen is I have to put the information together and get it to the town's attorney for review, and I just haven't gotten to that yet. I had a major project at work that I've been working on for many months now come to an end last week, so I know, yeah, yay. So now I have a little more time to get some things done where
For the
before.
next major project.
Things
that's-
around the house.
Yeah, well, yeah. If you notice, my lawn hasn't been mowed yet this year, okay?
I hadn't noticed.
My neighbors, I'm sure, have noticed.
But did you get the hallway done for your wife?
That's 3/4 done. That's what I've been working on. I've been trying to get an inside project done, which should have been done already because it's time to do outside stuff now. But it's getting better and better every day. So I spent all day yesterday cutting and putting up boards. Got all the trimmed out. Last weekend was the floor. That's all in now. So, all right.
if there's anything I can do to help you with that, just let me know, send me something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You can help me with the kiosk.
That thing,
And if you need it, and if you need another one, I got one in the shed. I'd love to get it.
not that big.
All right, that takes us to minutes. May the 4th, did everyone had a chance to look at them, review them?
I think I took most of it.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Move with corrections.
I'm waiting.
Okay,
Someone
I
can jump all
moved
over
it.
I was waiting for
Matt
it.
seconded it. Do you have any corrections you'd like to throw in?
I do, page 3, line 14. The business administrator has been made aware.
Yep.
This is my big
Heaney?
correction, yeah.
Spell checker didn't get that one, huh? Anything else, Matt?
That was it.
Okay, Jody?
Page 2, line 6.
Yeah.
Definitive information is being, I just think that should be sought.
Yep.
Thanks.
I printed these out, I know.
Anyone have anything else?
Yep, on page 2, row 33. I think it should be will be part of the discussion.
Yep.
And, 33. And then page 3, 26, to see if it can be addressed. Page 5, row 35. I believe that should be Wildcat Falls instead of Watson Park.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's it.
Anyone else have anything? So I just have two more. So page 4, line 31. George May is the chairman of SORLAC, S-O-R-L-A-C, which is the Sauhegan River Local Advisory Committee. I probably misspoke, but let's get it correct. And then the other one is on page 6, line 30. So that's further down Amherst Road and along Peasley Road. The word "and" should be included in there. That's all I have. Anything else? All those in favor with corrections signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions? All right, so that passes 5-0-1 with Mike abstaining. All right, so that takes us out of minutes. The public has left the building. Commissioner comments. Jody?
Thanks. I just wanted to share something that was discussed at the last town council meeting very briefly. In a butter to the Wildcat Falls, the Atherton Road, right? Is that how you say it? The timber harvest that happened there recently. I'm not sure if you're all aware of the tree cutting that went on a piece of town property that was in the middle of a residential neighborhood. A lot of abutters came to the town council with various concerns. Well, one of the abutters came with an actual agenda item and talked to the town council, basically requesting that the town council adopt, and you watch this, so correct me if I'm wrong, that we adopt some voluntary forestry management practices as mandatory, meaning we, the town of Merrimack. So there was some discussion regarding that. There was actually a motion put on the table to have that topic sent to the Conservation Committee for discussion and decision-making, and that motion failed. So it won't be coming here.
I'm not sure what they wanted to have done. What was?
There was voluntary forestry management practices, which I think once our draft minutes, if you're interested, are posted, you can look at that to get, I'm not an expert on the forestry management practices, so I couldn't reiterate them all to you, but I can get that information to you if you're interested. But anyway, she wanted the town council to adopt that, and members of the town council wanted to send it to the Conservation Commission to take a look at and get back, and that motion failed, so. I just wanted you all to be aware of it in case you heard anything, because I think a lot of people just assume that this commission's involved or knows about or participates in any kind of a timber harvest or forestry project. So I just wanted to make sure you all were aware of that happening at the town council is all. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's a fairly lengthy document that's a joint work of the Society for Protection of New Hampshire Forests, Cooperative Extension, the Department of Resources, the forest group of that, and it's a best management practice document. You can Google for it. It's like 200 pages or something like that. So, and it touches on all the RSAs that are involved with forestry, the whole. Yeah, everything that's involved when you have to do a permit, intent to cut, as well as basal areas and keep out areas, and all the couple of RSAs that are involved. So it's an extensive document. It's actually a well-written document too. So okay, yeah. Mike?
No, I think I sent you guys about the last GIS meeting, and you were all okay with the things I mentioned. I didn't get any emails. So,
Yes,
Uh,
well,
yeah.
I was glad you advocated for us.
so,
You have to figure out what that means, but,
right, I mean, so I just listed everything I could think of we would need to put on GIS and told them.
You got that last thing I sent to you, in the appointment?
Yes, and they actually made the next meetings when I was there, so I have it written down, and thanks for sending that.
Yep.
But, yeah, but it wasn't too exciting.
okay.
But it's moving forward.
Yes, yeah, there'll be monthly meetings for a little while longer, right, as far as I can see.
Cindy? Matt? Gage?
I'm good.
Right, I did get some correspondence. I have a copy of the letter, I think I gave you all electronic. This was from DOT signifying, or telling us that they would not give us an easement on the parcel next to Wildcat Falls, but in the future, they're looking at giving us a permanent easement when they're done with their highway widening project, which is long-term good. Got other supply lines in case you're interested in water stuff. This is put out by DES, yep. Tree farmer, in case you want to learn about tree farming, and with the forestry notes from SPNHF. So, what's that? Okay, yep, just send it back my way when you're done with it. So, and then this came today, I haven't had a chance to look at it. Also comes from DES, and it's about a particular area that they're doing work for, so I'll have to look at it. So, it's for a dredge and fill that I don't recall. Oh, no, this is the dredge and fill for Wabusick Lake, so they have some questions, they need some clarification on that permit. So, I'll go through it, I can scan it and send it off if you're interested, so. Beyond that, Friday is Sue's last day. I intend to do something for her. The rest of you are more than welcome to chime in, let me know, but I think it's more than appropriate, so. Which one?
The water.
Water, okay, great, and I need, all right, yep. So I'd like to personally thank Sue for all that she's done for our commission and the time she's been with us. She makes my job a heck of a lot easier, so I certainly appreciate it. In fact, the whole office does, but it's nice having a dedicated person. I'm gonna certainly miss her, so just after we get her all trained and everything. No, she's been training me, by the way. And I need training too. And that's all I have, so. Okay,
Second?
okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. That passes 600 at 9:33.